I will be adventuring 100 days as an assassin in Wynncraft. Wynncraft is a true MMORPG experience with access to 5 different classes, each with their own unique set of skills and abilities. They have a lot of custom items and armor sets for you to explore. An amazing world that is well built out with an awesome storyline in the form of many different quests. This is also enhanced by awesome raid bosses for you to take on with your party. There's even a cataclysmic world-ending event boss. But more on that later. Grab your snacks and drinks while you join me as I see just how far we can get in Wynncraft. Welcome to the beautiful world of Wynncraft. We finally arrived at the first city of Ragni, where I immediately skipped the tutorial and went straight into the good stuff, which is our first ability. Slashes rapidly around you, damaging enemies over a large area, so it's pretty much a circle sweep. The area of effect is 4.5 blocks, and we deal 150% of our DPS. Having unlocked our first ability, I went to meet up with the king, who had a very important quest for us, which is to get us inside of the army of Wynn. We were about to become an adventurer that helps all the people of Wynn to lead better lives and safe lives. Taking on this quest, I became a soldier of Wynn to stop the corruption that is spreading around the world. I, ElAbro the assassin, was going to survive 100 days in Wynncraft. Now, the first thing we had to do was immediately go out and get our first quest. I also checked out the map of Wynncraft, which was absolutely enormous. The skies looked beautiful, the air was filled with a sense of adventure. And I found my very first quest, which was to talk to Enzan, and he gave us a quest to find his brother. Taking into the wilderness, I already found signs of corruption. Random monsters were swarming the gates of Ragni, and I and the other adventurers were the only things standing in the way of Ragni's defeat. I also found my very first loot chest, which had a couple of emeralds, which is the currency that is used in Wynncraft. I also commenced with battle with these heinous mobs, and I got my first level up, which gives us an ability point and skill points. Ability points are points that are used in a skill tree that will give you abilities or change how your abilities work. For example, this first one increases my walk speed and my main attack's damage by 5%, which is your basic attack. The skill points, however, are used for your elemental skills. These elemental skills have a specific bonus to them, and for us, for example, dexterity is the most important one. It increases our thunder damage and the chance to do a critical hit. Every single elemental skill has a specific stat or trait that it increases as you level it up. There is also a thing called caves inside of Wynncraft. These are mini dungeons filled with mobs where you complete a combat quest in order to unlock a chest at the very end. These loot chests are always of really high rarity, and if the loot cave is completely filled up with their progress bar, you also get an additional chest, which has a chance to give you experience, items, and emeralds. Leaving the cave, I found an incredibly skilled looking adventurer who was a really high level. Looking at his equipment, it looked like they had mythic or fabled items in their inventory, which only sparked the adventurous spirit within my heart to start and explore more so we could attain that level as well. I then went to the item identifier. Whenever you find an item in Wynncraft, it is unidentified. This item identifier is an NPC that will, for a price of emeralds, identify your weapons and give you a roll on its stats. This means that you can either get a 0% all the way up to 100% identification on an item. And that's when we found Enzan's brother, who told us to descend into a cave to find an elusive mushroom. This mushroom was a mob that we had to kill in order to get its drop and help out Enzan's brother. In the cave, I took to battle with this energized mushroom, which dropped its loot, and we could go back to Enzan's brother. I did also quickly claim the loot chest that was down here in order to get ourselves going with a couple of emeralds, because as of right now, we were flat broke. I did spot another loot cave right off to the side of this normal cave, and it held a legendary unidentified leggings. I then quickly went to the item identifier to identify these leggings, which had a really strong health boost and gave me some health regen, which I rolled a perfect identification on. Rolling a perfect identification is pretty rare, so make sure that if you roll them, you use the items, because these identifications can be really huge. Any unwanted loot you don't want to keep in your inventory, you can sell to a blacksmith. He will give you a nice little reward in the form of emeralds for the gear that you scrap. Threk was really satisfied with the progress we made in the cave and rewarded us with our quest rewards, which were some experience and a couple of emeralds. Taking outside of Ragni, I was feeling the adventure and we started getting leveled up. We were now up to level 4, which gave us another ability point, and that one I spent in reducing the mana cost for my spin attack ability. Now my spin attack costs 10 mana less. Quickly taking an overview at my quest book, I realized I had a couple of quests laying around that we could still complete. One of them caught my eye, which was the cook assistant. There was a cook in Ragni who was in dire need of an adventurer to bring him some of the supplies in order to make his food. And when I made my way back to Ragni, I was met by a triple horde of level 17 zombies. These guys were decked out in full gold gear and they could take a very, very heavy beating. That being said, I was dodging them left and right and using my spin attack to whittle down their health, eventually managing to kill both of them. Back over at the cook in Ragni, he told me to get 2 eggs, a bucket of milk, and 3 wheat grains. This we could find outside of a nearby village, and that is also when I found a mob holding a key, the Decrepit Sewer's Key Guardian. This is a very interesting mob to find because when you kill this mob and its various stages, he will drop a key that grants you access to the dungeon that is inside of that area. And dungeons are a really cool place to find some amazing loot sold by the dungeon merchant. Back over at the nearby village where I had to get the bucket of milk, which was being sold by a random merchant. The eggs I got from some chickens, and the wheat grains we farmed up using a scythe. This is where we get introduced to the leveling skill system, which is you have gathering skills in Wynncraft as well, which will allow you to make your own potions, food items, your own scrolls, and other cool equipments. I wasn't going to get into the skilling system of Wynncraft as this takes a really long time, and I want to first explore what this server all has to offer. I did make a quick stop at the armor merchant in Ragni because they had some really interesting items they sold. Mainly some boots that gave agility and a chestplate that gave experience bonus. I did go quickly check out what mining was all about in Wynncraft, and this was also another skilling minigame. With this minigame, you mine ores and you get rewards in return. A different left or a right click will give you a different type of material that you can use in crafting or housing. Yes, you can have your own house in Wynncraft, which I think is pretty cool. That being said, I returned to Tassim, who was trying to get to Deathless when we met up with Ope. And Ope had a quest for us where we had to help him out and get a special type of flower that was located deep into a spider cave, because these spiders were plaguing the regular citizens of Wynn. So we immediately took to the cave and we got the Seracaeum plant and we killed more of these zombies. These ones are everywhere around the map, and be careful because at level 17 they hit very hard when you are level 5. We then went outside of the cave and delivered the plant to Ope, which was going to put it to good use. He told us to go to Mayor Alvin, and Mayor Alvin was satisfied with our exploits as an adventurer and gave us some experience points and emeralds in return for our services. That is also when I checked out the skill tree even more, or the ability tree I should say, and this ability tree is very packed with some really awesome abilities. We have to be a little bit higher leveled in order to actually use some of these abilities. Together with Tassim, I was exploring when we got ambushed by a boss mob. Oh god! We get a corrupted golem on our ass. Tassim, do something! Oh, he gave me 20% resistance. That's what I'm talking about, Tassim. Yeah! After dealing with that boss, we made our way to Deathless, where we got ambushed by a bunch of zombies. These zombies definitely wanted to eat our faces off, so we dispatched them quickly, also making the place a lot safer for the Wynn residents. I then talked to Captain Fenor, which had a quest for us that would allow us to fast travel between Ragni and Deathless. We had to meet up with Miner Linton, who told us that there was trouble brewing in the mines. This meaning that the way to Ragni had been completely blocked off, and that's when we got visited by this strange fellow. Which was indeed a little bit awkward. They opened up a hole in the side of the wall and we chased after them. Later, I would learn that this NPC is called Drail, and Drail wanted us to do a little side quest of freeing the cows from one of the farmers in Wynn. I of course freed the cows because I wanted to get the fast travel, and that is when I got spotted by the farmer. Bilvis had other plans, however, as he sent an iron golem to deal with me. This golem was immediately angered, and the guard golem took his fists and wanted to fight me. Now, this being said, an iron golem is a very slow mob, and we are very fast, meaning that we can take out this golem without even being hit once. After dispatching the golem, I helped Drail put the cows on a ship and let them sail off in the distance. Drail, being very happy, told me he was going to return the favor in due time. I met up back with Miner Linton and we were discussing what to do about the wall when Drail came back and he had two of his strongest cows open a way in the tunnel for us. After going through the tunnel, I made my way back to Ragni, where I met up with another sergeant who told us that the fast travel has now been activated. And then it was time to go into Deathless and see what this beautiful city had in store for us. I first had a meeting with the Admiral, who told us that the corruption was spreading even faster, and he needed us to go and get stronger. That being said, I took to the armor merchant of Deathless, and he was selling rare equipment, which was on the expensive side, but would help us a great deal down the road. I also found a slaying post, which is a quest given on a timely basis where you can turn in mob drops for experience. However, we were only level 9 and those cows were level 15, so I was not going to take any chances. Back over at Deathless, I also met the player market. This is an auction house where everybody can sell their items to anybody on the server. One of the first things that we had to buy was an emerald pouch, because these emeralds were completely filling up my inventory. After having bought the emerald pouch, I went over to the first dungeon, the Decrepit Sewers. This is a level 9 dungeon and we were at level 9, so it was perfect for us to test out our skills and weapons on a first dungeon boss. This Witherhead talisman also looked really appealing to me, having XP and loot bonus. There's also a couple of other items you can buy from the Dungeon Merchant. This is an NPC that will take the rewards from the dungeon boss and give you items in return from it. And so we entered the Decrepit Sewers. The way that the dungeons in Wynncraft work is that you have a couple of tasks to complete in order to open a set of doors and make your way to the boss arena like that. My first quest I had to do was kill a bunch of mobs. This was a combat quest. After dispatching of enough mobs, the door would open and we would be able to continue on to the next room. The next room was a parkour challenge, which means we had to cross a collapsed bridge in order to get to the other side and make our way to the third room. The third room was another combat quest. We had to kill 12 mobs in order to open the gates so we could ascend in this dungeon up to the higher floors. After dealing with most of the mobs on this layer, I made my way up the staircases and I was looking around to find the next room. I also got another ability point, which I put into the double slice. This means that my basic attack will hit twice for a 40% reduced damage. This still means an increase in damage, and it gives us more turns to apply negative effects to mobs. The last quest before we could get to the boss was a slaying quest. After completing that, I opened the gates to the final boss of this dungeon. And that is when I met the Witherhead. The Witherhead got up, and it was going to be a battle to the death with the Black Plague of Ragni. This boss was dealing some heavy damage to me, having a headbutt ability that also gave me 60% slowness and the ability to spawn little silverfish to swarm me. This guy was pretty dangerous. Using my spin attack, I was able to deal with most of the add-ons, and then I finished off the Witherhead. And we completed our first dungeon. I quickly went over to the place where I found the Key Guardian, and lo and behold, there was another one right there with another key. So I took to the dungeon once more in order to beat the Witherhead again, and we were going to be able to get that Witherhead talisman that gives us those beautiful bonuses for loot and experience. Now, this time around, I had a new ability. I had a dash, which is an ability that allows you to zip around the map, getting out of dangerous situations and using to scale the difficult terrain. For those who don't know, abilities in Wynncraft are used with a specific key combination, which means your mouse keys, right clicks and left clicks in a specific order, grants you the ability to cast spells, which I think is a really cool way to do abilities. I then took to the Witherhead again, and I started whacking him down, and this time around I was dealing heavy damage. I knew what this guy could do, and I knew what his weakness was. And with that, we completed the second run of the Decrepit Sewers. And just like that, we got the Witherhead talisman, and I got word of a world event that was unfolding right outside of the gates of the dungeon. There was an invasion of corrupted mobs approaching Ragni, and we had to put a stop to it. Immediately, a bunch of mobs spawned, and we were able to take them down really easily. The next wave spawned, and using a spin attack, I took down the bulk of their forces before finishing them off with some basic attacks. The last wave was about to spawn, and in this wave was a humongous scarecrow enemy that was possessed by the corruption. He started doing some belly flops, which was kind of weird, but they were easy to dodge, which means that I wasn't taking any heavy damage, and all the loot from this world event would be mine. After clearing the event, we would be met with an event cache, and this cache held a lot of beautiful loot, namely some set items, some emerald blocks, and a lot of legendaries. They also dropped some ingredients and an emerald pouch, which was a huge find. Back over at Ragni, I had to store away a lot of my items into the bank. The bank is an ender chest that functions to transfer items between you and your other characters, as well as store it safely in a secure space. You can also buy additional bank pages using the in-game currency, so no pay to win on this. Cut the pay to win. I then went to the next world event, which I got word of was in the middle of the Nivla forest. I also quickly before the event unlocked the multi-hit ability, which unleashes a rapid flurry of 8 hits to enemies facing you, dealing heavy damage. This came in really clutch, as when the event started, I immediately noticed that the mobs from this world event were a lot stronger. These blazes with their ranged attacks were nothing to scoff at. After dealing with the first wave and the second one, I was met by a fierce enemy with 3000 health, and that did a ton of damage. This was the world event boss, and this one was nothing like the scarecrow I fought before, having a special set of abilities and a dash that deals a heavy amount of damage to me. I knew this fight wasn't going to be easy, but still, I took this mob head on. Using my new multi-hit ability, which the second time it did hit, I was able to deal some heavy damage because he was also weak to water damage. And the multi-hit ability is from the water damage element, which means that we're doing a very, very heavy amount of damage. The downside of this multi-hit ability is that I get within range of this boss's attacks, which means that if I am not careful, I will die. But the boss perished before me, and we completed the world event, granting us another event crate, which was filled with goodies from all around. Back over at the item identifier, where we found the mayor, I also identified these rare items. Now, identifying costs a great deal of money, and I would not suggest doing what I did here, which is selling the items immediately to the blacksmith after identifying. The chance that you sell the items for less than it took to identify is pretty big, so you're better off just selling the items to the player market or storing them for other characters. That being said, it was time to continue with our journey. I also identified another hydrogen, but this one didn't seem to be any better at all. I then tried selling my emerald pouches on the player market, but the lower tier emerald pouches do seem to not be that great in the economy. It's better off you sell these or just scrap these to a blacksmith or just throw them away. Powders are still really big on the player market. These always sell pretty fast. In the beginning of the game, this will be your main source of income. I then switched over to an emerald pouch 4. I needed to have a higher tier emerald pouch myself because my first emerald pouch was getting pretty stacked up. My new emerald pouch can also turn emeralds into emerald blocks. And that is when we unlocked the water mastery. I then took on a quest from Ensker. Now, Ensker does have a quest which allows you to get a horse. This I thought was going to be the easiest way to get around the world a lot quicker. Now, I had to go and defeat some cows in a nearby cave. I then figured out that I also had to kill a boss. And to my surprise, or actually not to my surprise, the main boss of this cave were 2 cows. A small, nimble, but blind cow with an assassin-style moveset, and a bigger, more docile, strong cow, well actually a bull, that had a big hammer. Now, the assassin was the biggest of my threats, as this guy had a dash and a multi-hit, and he did a lot of damage. I did manage to quickly take that one down, and now I could just kite around Albert, and he was not going to do much to me. If he hits me, I can still heal up, and I have ample time in order to get my health back, and I just kept hitting him with that multi-hit. After that was done, it was time to go back to Ensker and deliver the stable key that he had lost. After completing the quest, we got a brown horse, which is the tier 1 horse. You have 4 tiers of horses. You have your brown horse, your black horse, you also have your chestnut horse, and the white horse. The white horse being the best, but costing about 250,000 emeralds, which is incredibly expensive, and we definitely cannot do that right now. So that being said, I took with my brown horse to Wynn in order to adventure more. And the next quest on our path was going to be Elemental Exercise. This was a quest that took place in Deathless, where Captain Ragon was gonna teach us the ways of elemental damage in the beautiful province of Wynn. Tassim, who joined us in the beginning of our adventure, was also here. He needed to be educated on the powers of elemental damage. After a long discussion about the different types of elements, it seems that every element had a weakness, and every element was strong against another one. After getting lectured about all the math with these elements, I had a battle with Tassim, a 1 versus 1. Now, he immediately charged me, which I got kinda scared with. I missed 2 of my multi-hits because Tassim is an absolute god at dodging, but that didn't matter at all because I hit him with a second multi-hit and he was down for the count. We were victorious. That being said, it was a good sparring match, but while we were sparring, the enemy forces of Wynn invaded Deathless. They were spreading corruption all around the front gates of Deathless. All the soldiers took to the outside. Me and Tassim met up with Captain Ragon, and we were going to defeat this evil corruption that was conquering Wynn. They had an incredible mage that flew up in the air and summoned a bunch of smaller soldiers. These soldiers stood absolutely no chance against me and Tassim, and then it was time to take out the final mage of their forces. This corrupted summoner did quite a bit of damage, but Tassim was on the case covering for me while I was healing up. After a well-placed spin attack, we were done, and we were reigned as respectable soldiers back at Captain Ragon's office. Captain Ragon was impressed with our accomplishments and gave us some rewards, as well as his very own bracelet, which had extra health and some defenses in every element, which is pretty amazing. That's a good bracelet. I then met up with the assistant of a laboratory manager. He told me that his master, his teacher, had gone rogue and we needed to help exterminate him. First, we had to get 8 red mushrooms for the assistant. After that, I found a key guardian for the next dungeon. This was the Infested Spider Pits key guardian, which means we have a new dungeon to conquer pretty soon. We also leveled up and got another ability point and 2 skill points, which was huge. And then I went back to the assistant and I gave him the 8 red mushrooms. The assistant was pleased and told me the whereabouts of his teacher that we had to go and face in battle. I quickly made my way to the teacher of the assistant, and it seemed like this teacher was doing some very questionable rituals. He also noticed us spying on him, so he went immediately for battle. There were no words to be exchanged, it was just pure combat. This teacher had definitely gotten corrupted plans, or he got corrupted himself. Nonetheless, we did what was necessary, and we collected evidence of our glorious kill, and we returned it to the assistant. The assistant was both satisfied and saddened at his teacher's death, but he gave me his coat as a commemorative reward. I did identify the Esseron's coat, and it was actually pretty good. It gave us some intelligence, spell damage, and water damage, so I definitely did like that. Equipping that new coat gave us a little bit of a boost in the item category, and then it was on to the trade market because I wanted to see what the prices were for these horses. And that's when my wallet started crying and my emerald pouch was in disdain. These horses are so incredibly expensive, I don't think I will ever be able to buy one in these 100 days. I didn't let it get me down, and I went to Ope because he had a new mission for us. He wanted to start up a business, and he needed some village supplies from the trade market. For some reason, Ope was banned from this trade market. I'm not sure what he has done, but he wanted us to deliver these supplies back to the mayor over in the Nivla forest. And so, while I was on my quest to deliver the supplies, I decided to do a couple of loot runs to get some extra loot, some extra emeralds and gear in order to get stronger. These loot caves are incredibly good as they have a good chest that is either rarity star 3 or rarity star 4 at the end of the dungeon. Usually you have to kill a set amount of mobs before you can open the chest, and when you fully clear a loot cave, you also are granted with an extra additional chest that gives you that beautiful experience, or emeralds, or items. Later on, when we get to a higher level, they will also start dropping runes. But that is going to be for much, much later, because runes are used for raids, and we'll get into that good stuff later on. I went to the Mayor Alvin, and I gave him the supply crate from Ope, and he was very happy to see us delivering this. He was really unsure what Ope was up to, but he was taking it nonetheless, as the village needed supplies. We then also unlocked the access to the Alekin village fast travel, so we could take a cart from Deathless over to Alekin village. I then sold all of the items that I gotten in my loot cave runs, and we were a little bit higher, a little bit richer. We got 211 emeralds for that, which was pretty good. I then went over to Ragni to buy a couple of potions, but these potions were incredibly low leveled, so I don't think these would do much for me. And I decided it was time to go to the Infested Pits. Taking a couple of loot caves on the way to the Infested Pits was the most efficient way to go, and we still were claiming those extra rewards because I wanted as much experience as possible. That being said, I also got a new ring, which gave us some more attack, and I also identified a pretty good legendary helmet that I swapped for my otherwise uncommon one. Back over at the Powder Master, I inserted my first powders into my equipment. Now, if you insert a powder into a armor piece, you will get extra defense according to the element of the powder. If you insert it into a weapon, you will turn some of your regular damage into that specific element's powder's element damage, and you also get some flat bonuses to your elemental damage. So powders are one of the best ways to increase your defense and increase your DPS. And that's when we finally found the Infested Pits dungeon. And the dungeon merchant was selling an incredible set. This is the spider set. Now, thinking about an assassin and a spider set, I definitely think this set will have some good bonuses for us as an assassin. So I set my mind to it. I wanted to collect the full spider set before we left this dungeon. And so I went to the potion merchant right outside of the dungeon, and he was selling some much better potions. Swapping around my old potions for the new ones, we were ready to go into the dungeon. I gave the key to the key collector, and off we went into the Infested Pit dungeon. The first room was a pretty easy one. Here I just had to kill a bunch of regular spiders and destroy some eggs in order to open the way to the next room. In the next room, we were met with some parkour, which had some jumpy pads, which was really cool. And then we had to fight humanoid arachnid creatures. These were of a higher level, and I seem to be of a higher hierarchy as well within this nest. That being said, after this room was another parkour room, and then we were on to the final corridor before we would reach the spider boss. And just like that, we made our way into the Arachidicus lair, the queen of spiders. This boss looks incredibly cool. I have to say the model for this is absolutely awesome. Now, this mob was pretty strong. I have to say this is the strongest boss we faced so far, because they have 7,000 health, spawn small add-ons, put us on fire, and they have a crazy jump and lob ability as well. Now, using a couple of well-placed multi-hits, I was definitely able to do a bunch of damage to this boss. Now, it was slowly backing up because it knew I was stronger than it was. And I kept spamming my multi-hit and using a spin attack whenever it spawned add-ons, and this was the perfect strategy. It then slowed me down for 50% for 4 seconds, which was definitely devastating. Luckily enough, I had enough health to cover all of the damage it did. Although I did end up using 13 potions, as you can see in my inventory. It was definitely not an easy battle, but we got a lot of loot in return, and we found the set that I wanted to go for. That being said, I bought 5 infested pit dungeon keys. This was going to allow me to get enough of those beautiful dungeon drops to get the full spider set. And so, we went onwards to the spider dungeon once more to raid it 5 additional times. I also unlocked a new ability, and this time I went for the riding reflexes, which gives me the ability to stay airborne and get a glide effect. And back in the dungeon we were to kill the boss 5 times. And just like that, the dungeon was completed 6 times in a row, and we had enough of the Arachidicus eyes in order to trade for the spider set. I know I'm probably butchering that name, but it's a really difficult one to say. I bought the last piece of the spider set, and the bonus was incredible. We got XP bonus, dexterity, agility, poison, and walk speed, and each part gives us walk speed as well, which means that we are incredibly fast, poison enemies, and have dexterity and agility. This is the perfect set for an assassin. I also went to the player market to look for a new weapon to buy. As we had reached a new higher level, we were able to use some more powerful equipment. And I definitely wanted to get a legendary dagger, and I settled on the Divide. This was a pretty good dagger that also gave us some mana steal, some additional walk speed, thorns exploding, elemental defense, and spell damage. All in all, this is a pretty powerful dagger. Arriving at the well, we took a plunge into the deep caverns, where we had to seek out a potion merchant that would sell us a fire resistance potion. After finding the merchant, I also realized they're selling potions of healing that heal you 500 in a split second. So of course, I had to cop a couple of those. And then it was on to fight with the corrupted heart. This place was completely filled with fiery mobs, and there was a corrupted heart of lava in the middle of the cave. I immediately took up arms against this corrupted heart because we had to cleanse Wynncraft of the invasion of these corrupted beings. And it didn't take me long until we would finally slay the heart of lava, thus completing the quest and pushing back the corruption that is conquering Wynn yet again. We got launched up into the air out of the lava pit, and I talked with Colonel Gaylord. They told us that we completed the quest and we had done our service as a soldier of Wynn once more. I then did a little bit of a side quest going into some more loot caves, getting some more legendary equipment and some more emeralds because we were running a little bit low on money. And these chests got me some experience as well, which leveled me up and gave me 2 more skill points. I also identified a bulk of equipment that I'd got, and I was looking at the dagger that I gotten, which was a rare dagger, but it wasn't with the stats that I was going for. I was mainly looking for agility or dexterity. After that, I met up with a general right outside of an ancient crypt. They told us that there was an anomaly inside of this dungeon, and that this anomaly was spreading corruption all around Nemract. So I took up arms, and I went inside an abandoned house where I got stuck in a trap. And I discovered a corridor that apparently led to a deeper part of the cave. This piqued my interest, so of course you knew that I was going inside to take a look. Little did I know I would get trapped in an alternate dimension with a very hostile mob at the very center of it. I then explored this strange dimension that I had never seen before, and I got jump scared by the anomaly itself. It actually scared me in-game. I'm not even gonna lie, I wasn't expecting a jump scare. The being also consumed the lost souls that were roaming around in this new dimension. I tried casting a multi-hit, but it had no effect on the anomaly. So I adventured deeper in the hopes of figuring out why or what this anomaly was. Apparently hundreds of lost souls had already been slain on the battlefield right outside of the Skull Gates. They told us that we would fail for certain, so I adventured inside of the skull, and I wanted to unravel the mysteries. And so after arriving at a giant door, we got flung outside of the domain. General Grokken came to greet us and told us that we had to conquer this dungeon, to rid the dungeon of the evil once and for all. So of course, with my trusty General Grokken by my side, I decided to conquer this dungeon and not let the corruption spread any longer. Heading inside, I gave the key to the dungeon key collector, and we were going on a new adventure filled with undead mysteries. The same door that we got thrown out of was right in front of us, and General Grokken knew that these blighted zombies were nothing to scoff at. The first room that we entered, we got swarmed by a couple of monsters and a mini-boss that was keeping us from advancing further. We had to, of course, slay this Forsaken Legion Marsban. This guy was an absolute pushover, however, because he did a lot of damage and he had a high defense. But that being said, we are an assassin and we are trained to kill. And that's exactly what I did. I did almost die in the process, so maybe this guy was not a pushover like I thought he was. And then we advanced onwards. We had a river to cross with undead archers shooting continuously at our fleet. Having zombies swarm the boat every once so often, I had to fend for my life. After which, we finally made it to the boss room, and General Grokken was ready, and I was too. Heading inside of the boss room, we were met with an open room filled with an undead presence. Charon, the Keeper of Souls, appeared in front of my eyes. With a weakness to water, this guy was nothing to scoff at. He had a multi-hit in his possession as well, but it didn't seem like he had any fancy magic tricks. Dashing around the map like a crazy assassin, I used my multi-hit and my spin attacks whenever possible, and I knew I was able to defeat this. I had enough potions in stock to heal from even the gravest injuries, so I was certain I was able to take him down. And soon after, we completed the dungeon, and we conquered the Underworld Crypt. The only sad part about the Underworld Crypt is that the dungeon merchant does not really have any items that are really valuable to us. So that being said, I wanted to focus on leveling up for that divide, which we actually did after this dungeon, and we were finally able to get that damage increase. We were now a weapon of mass destruction for being level 26, a little disclaimer. But nonetheless, we had new weaponry and a new arsenal at our hands. I also finally got the riding reflex, which makes it so I can glide down while I'm airborne. And I made a quick stop at the player market because some of my powders had sold and I needed to get a little bit more money. I wanted to prepare for buying a new full set of legendary armor as my spider set was running a little bit behind. We were on the low side of health and I wanted to stay alive as long as possible and as much as possible. I quickly looted up another loot cave, which was also a cavern quest, and blowing through this dungeon using my special abilities, it was no issue whatsoever. I also immediately unlocked the chest, which was a tier 4 chest having a stack of emeralds, a couple of ingredients, and another legendary dagger. This dagger, however, was leveled between 12 and 16, so it wasn't something we could use, but we could sure sell it. I then hit up another loot chest, and I kept the grind going. Eventually, I looted up enough that I got another level, and we were able to unlock the dagger proficiency. This dagger proficiency makes it so my basic attack has more reach and more damage. And then I set my sights on the beautiful desert of Almuj. I immediately started making my way over to Almuj while I was still looting up all the different loot caves that were spread around the map. Because of course, you know, looting is good. We want to get as rich as possible. I then made my way to Almuj and I finally reached it, entering the beautiful gates into the desert biome. Now, I quickly went over back to Deathless because I wanted to see what kind of parties were in the Party Finder. This Party Finder is a system where you can party up with random people around the world for different kinds of things. Each party has a unique activity that they're going for, ranging from killing mobs to completing quests and raiding bosses or boss altars. Now, you can travel easily between the two towns or between multiple towns by visiting a scroll merchant in each town. They sell a teleportation scroll that allows you to teleport between the towns pretty much for free. Every 10 minutes you get a new charge for your teleportation scrolls. I was looking around which was going to be the next quest that I wanted to complete, but before that I raided another loot dungeon, and then we were going to be on our way to figure out the first quest in the beautiful Almuj. Before I would switch over to some new armor, I also made sure to install a couple of powders onto my existing spider set just so I could survive that a little bit longer with some more elemental defenses. I also visited the potion merchant in Almuj, which had some higher leveled potions that would surely be my one-way ticket to saving myself from certain death. I then explored Almuj and its many wonders, one of them being a giant quarry. While I was on the way to one of the outskirts, I also noticed a bandit standing outside of an ancient dungeon. This place was apparently a mummy's crypt. I also found a bandit hideout, which looked really beautiful right next to an awesome mountain bridge. The only sad part was that I couldn't enter any of these places as they are tied to quests. So first we have to level up a little bit, and then we would be able to start doing some of the quests in Almuj. But that is when I found the Sanctum. This is a place with multiple boss fights in one singular room. This place looked amazing. So of course my curiosity got the better of me and I entered one of the boss rooms. And I immediately had to commence battle with this Tora the Servant. Now these battles ranged from level 34 all the way to 46 I believe. And each battle has a loot chest locked behind it. Which means that we have 12 loot chests in one location that we could possibly conquer. For it didn't stand much of a chance, a warrior versus an assassin is always going to go in favor of the assassin, just because we are way too nimble and we have that beautiful multi-hit that also locks the enemy in place. My first loot chest was looking scrumptious and it had 3 stars. Upon being opened, I got a set helmet and I also got another legendary item. This was already looking like a great start for the Sanctum, and my curiosity kept getting the better of me, so I entered the second arena. The second arena was an even easier battle with a dune crawler that I'd already gotten down to half HP. This thing was a pushover. It was not dealing any damage to me at all, and I quickly finished it off, which in turn opened the loot chest and gave us some more good rewards. I didn't want to stay any longer because we were getting to a level gap of about 10 levels between me and the bosses, so I went back to one of the towns, this one being Deathless, and I identified some of the equipment that I had. I also found a quest that was near my level that was located in the Time Valley. This is an area of Wynncraft where time magic has affected all things around it. Here we would go and complete a quest, Deja Vu. This quest was, however, a very interesting one. This is one of the better quests I feel like in Wynncraft, which has a pretty interesting storyline. But before we could get to the quest, we first had to do battle with some of these guardians that were right outside one of the bigger areas in Time Valley. Some of these guardians were very strong and dealt a lot of damage. After getting away from the ancient guardians, I met up with Asher. Asher was one of the citizens that wasn't originally from this time. And it gets even darker, because in his original timeline, he actually died. But in an alternate timeline, he found a time-traveling shovel that brought him to this day and age. But Asher had no idea what was happening to him, and he got teleported back to his original timeline after I gave him another shovel. That's when we met Old Man Martin. Martin was a seasoned veteran within the magic community, and he told me to head inside so we could discuss what happened to Asher. He then opened a portal for me which allowed me to travel back into the past and save Asher from the dreadful outcome that his fate was set in. Asher had no idea what was going on and we needed to make sure that we could protect him. one of the ways that was by disabling one of the cranes that would drop on his head. The second dangerous situation in Asher's original world was some TNT that was exploding. After overriding the bomb, it was time for me to move on to the next dangerous event, which was a tree that would eventually fall right on his head. We blew down the tree with a mighty cannon, and we found Asher's time-traveling shovel. Having saved Asher from all of these outcomes, he finally managed to meet up with his shovel again. And that is when Old Man Martin came in and saved the day. He was able to stop Asher from touching the shovel and going forwards in time to our timeline. He then hit Asher in the head, telling him it was not a good idea to mess with time travel. He got sent back to his original timeline at the very start of it after being saved, and Martin teleported us back to our timeline. That's when we met up again with Asher, who has now developed completely after being time traveled for so many times. I mean, that would probably mess you up a little bit, right? We completed the quest Deja Vu, and we got some experience and some emeralds. We also got access to the whole Time Valley area, which I wanted to visit Tempo Town. This was apparently a town where we could find a very interesting quest from a homeless mayor. Yeah, a homeless mayor. I don't know how that works exactly, but he was homeless, and he was looking for help. There was apparently some kind of monster roaming around in an ancient building right over the hill of Tempo Town. Upon arriving to the hill, I met up with one of the scouts. This scout was one of the witnesses that noticed a monster going into a cave that was located underneath this very building. And to open up the floor, we needed to cast spells and induce the eyes with magic for it to activate and open the door. After the door opened, I was dropped into a cave afflicted with time-traveling magic. I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, but I knew I had to do something. Making my way all the way down to the bottom of the cave, I found a prison-like room with an encased mob in the middle of it. Immediately, I started fighting the mob, which spawned a time keeper. This mob only had 2,000 health, so he was easy to deal with. And that was when I realized that this guy has multiple phases, and there was something very odd about this fight. Something was going to happen after I slay this timekeeper. And sure as set in stone, old Martin showed up and told us that we had made a grave mistake. We killed one of the mobs that he put in a temporal prison to keep safe while keeping the timeline stable. These time anomalies are apparently monstrosities that affect time around them. Having killed one of them set off a chain reaction, releasing multiple other ones into Time Valley. And so we had to go and report back to the homeless mayor. I got teleported back into the world, and I felt awful about what had happened. Strange magic stones upon the hills started glowing, thus allowing us to become a bounty hunter for time-traveling anomalies that we had to slay for some rewards. This unlocked the time-traveling trouble bosses. We also got access to a quick travel between Nemract and Time Valley, which was actually really nice because that's like halfway across the map. That being said, I did take to the Powder Master to infuse my equipment with some powder, and I tried out the fast travel, which looks really cool, by the way. And so we discovered Nemract, which was one of the first times I visited here, apparently. That being said, I did quickly return to Time Valley because I had a job to do. We had to kill these time anomalies and rid the world of time-traveling magic. These bosses were, however, nothing to scoff at. These mobs pack a heavy punch. And when I say heavy punch, I mean a heavy punch. They had me on my tippy toes. I was trying to dodge, bob, and weave, and the mob got me down to 100 health. We finally managed to beat the first boss of the time-traveling anomalies. I then set out and sought more battle, as there were more time anomalies to kill and more rewards to reap. And that is when I met my match. The Eternal Bloom time anomaly was a ranged anomaly with a rapid fire shot. This was a match that I was not ready for, so I took the smart decision and left the time anomaly alone. I did, however, get a new bracelet, which was better, from the Timekeeper merchant. I then also took to the player market because I found some really interesting boots called Disco that increase all my stats by 6, which is a definite big upgrade from the previous boots that I had, and also granting me 49 more health. After getting some new equipment, I thought I was ready to go and raid the new dungeon. This is the Time Sanctum dungeon. Dropping down into the Time Abyss, I was ready to go and raid. Little did I know that this was going to be the first excursion that didn't end well for ElAbro. Also, when I checked over the dungeon merchant's item, these items all seem to be catered towards mages, so there really isn't much for us to buy here. That being said, I did go inside of the dungeon and I wanted to complete it. The first one was a puzzle room. We had to stabilize both pillars in order to summon one of the pillars of time that was keeping this dungeon together. This was just a basic combat quest, after which the temporal anchor got summoned and we defeated it. Every time a temporal anchor falls, the path to the dungeon boss becomes clearer and clearer. The second challenge was a combat challenge focused on assassinating a specific enemy within the set room. This sounded like a challenge that was right up my alley, but as you can see on my hotbar, we were running out of healing items very fast. I did manage to get the temporal anchor down, but I was left with no healing items. I still had another combat challenge and a parkour challenge left, so I first did the parkour challenge, taking me on a trip around the galaxy, which looked really interesting. And I found the temporal anchor sitting at the very top of the parkour challenge. After defeating this, we had 2 more temporal anchors left. One in the other combat room, and the last one that was remaining was in another puzzle room. I took to the puzzle room and I cleared it out as best as I could before perishing because of the lack of healing potions. There was nothing we could have done about this, and I was impaled by a rogue star. That being said, this does show why I don't play this pack in hardcore, because the limited knowledge that I have in what deals what damage is definitely going to be the bane of my existence if I were to play this in hardcore. But with new knowledge gained, I returned to Tempo Town to buy more potions, as I knew what I was up against. With healing potions, I was sure I could conquer this dungeon and free Wynn of more corruption. To get the best kinds of potions, I did however go over to Nemrak to buy some of the highest level potions I could get my hands on. And then I took back to the temporal anchors for my revenge. This time dungeon stood no chance against a fully potted up ElAbro in his assassin style. After the parkour, we made our way to the final dungeon boss room. This is where we would fight with a time-traveling magician that I had no idea what I was up against. Garroth, the Keeper of the Sanctum, a level 40 boss that immediately upon entering the dungeon room hit me 2 times with a high damaging ability. I had a system planned out for myself where I could kite around this boss while throwing smoke bombs on him, suffocating him in CO2. However, because he is a magician, he is not weak to air, so this wind damage that I was dishing out wasn't doing too much. I did however land a couple of good multi-hits and managed to kill him, after which he entered a phase 2, dropping us 1 floor below. He corrupted the whole boss room and dropped me down, dealing some heavy damage to me as I got fall damage stacking on top of me. I then tried to make my way through the dangerously outlined area, and I dropped down twice, almost killing me in the very moment. His second phase was a lot stronger, but a lot less health, meaning that I knew if I was going to go full out on the offense with a couple of well-placed multi-hits, I would be able to completely destroy Garroth, the Keeper of the Sanctum. With 1 multi-hit left remaining on his health bar, I finished him off and completed the Lost Sanctuary. That is when I went over to Admiral Amerigo back in Almuj, where we were finally high enough level to accept his quest and join a brotherhood of mercenaries where we would conquer the bandits' hideout that we saw before in Almuj. Admiral Amerigo told us that there were some forces that they were very conspicuous of that were hiding inside. Some of the ranks among the military had gone rogue, and we needed to put a stop to it. Together with my newly formed mercenary team, we blew a hole into the side wall of this bandit hideout and entered immediately inside. Shadow spear slicers were all around, getting alarmed by the sound of the explosion. This being said, it was no problem for us as I sneaked my way through the castle and infiltrated Takan, who was giving a speech to his army. After he notices me and the mercenaries, we were immediately on high alert. Takan took out his weapon and immediately wanted to kill us. After we defeated Takan, we had to find out what their plans were. Takan ran away with his tail between his legs, and we collected the key to the tower. This, however, was not in favor of the Shadow Spear's leader, who wanted to take us out once and for all. Little did they know that a band of mercenary soldiers of Wynn was going to be an incredible force to deal with. I finished off Takan, and I claimed his badge, and I parted ways with my newly formed mercenary friends, each going their own way to make a name for themselves in the Wynn province. I made my name by handing over the badge to Admiral Amerigo and claiming the quest, and getting a really sick bracelet in the process. Dude, look at this thing. It has a magnet effect that pulls items dropped by mobs towards you. That's pretty good. I then scoured around on my quest book in order to find an interesting quest, and I actually found an awesome quest which would lead us to a new dungeon. We had to go talk to Junes in front of the dungeon of Almuj. Junes was very happy to find a Ragni soldier that could help them in a quest to find a legendary scepter left behind by the late Prince of Almuj. Taking up advice from where Junes knew that the last location of the scepter was, we had to infiltrate and blend in with a band of bandits. Entering their secret hideout, I got a quest from them to prove my worth to the bandits club and raid one of the officials in Rymek, his personal quarters. Apparently this guy had a book laying around that they could blackmail him with in order to get rich. So, being an assassin, I did what I do best, and I snuck around the castle, avoiding every single guard, breaking windows, and stealthing around so nobody could see me. I had one goal and one goal only, and that was to bring back this journal to the bandits club. The bad part being that the guards actually spotted me. So I bolted out of the window, and the guys outside were ready with a carriage to bring me back to the hideout. This was a successful heist. Arriving back at the bandits' hideout, I wanted to present this journal and get vetted in to join the bandits club. They told me that I needed a password. As I handed over the diary, the vault guard was very pleased to see that I had a good quality password with me. I then stumbled upon something amazing that I could have never imagined. I actually eavesdropped on a meeting where they were discussing the location of the legendary scepter of the late Prince of Almuj. With this information in my hands, I immediately made my way to the crashed caravan where the scepter was supposedly at. Little did I know that I was being set up by the bandits crew, who saw me and immediately tried going for my throat. They knew that I was not one of them. That being said, I skillfully assassinated the three of them. In the process of that, I found out where the real scepter was laying. I had to immediately return back to Junes and give them the scepter. With the scepter in hand, they could do more research on how everything worked back when the prince and the emperor were alive. Junes also told me some interesting information about the dungeon of Almuj. Apparently the late prince was still residing within, in a decrepit, mummified state, filled with corruption. Which means as a soldier of Wynn, we have to take this sand-swept tomb key and conquer the dungeon to put the prince to rest for once and all. I also unlocked a cheaper multi-hit ability, which was really nice because now it costs 5 mana less, increasing our DPS even more. I handed over the dungeon key to the dungeon key master, and the prince immediately greeted me with a shrieking howl and told me why we were here. The first room was the prince sending over a ton of scarabs to try and eat my face off. This, however, was no problem, as these lowly bugs stand no chance against a seasoned veteran. The next room posed a significantly bigger challenge with a Dune Beast mini-boss that could dash around the map and inflict heavy damage. That being said, this guy also stood no chance against us. If I don't get hit, I will never die. I then had to do a little bit of parkour where the dungeon collapsed slightly bit by bit, opening up a hole in the middle of the corridor. Oh, that opened the hole over there. Huh. Fancy. You know, I quite like the dungeons in this game, you know? Slay mobs. Okay, good. Got it. How many? 15. Can you kill the traps in the wall? No, it doesn't seem like. Okay, we're on 12. Bye-bye. Oh, this is some parkour. Dude, this parkour is going to be easy. We got jump boost, and we got like about 40% extra speed. It's always nice to have a little bit of puzzles, a little bit of parkour, a little bit of combat. I like it. It's nice. You are not of the old empire. Not one of these one of those who forced me here. Why do you take arms against me? I only tried to save my people from my father. Oh. Well, I mean, if it's just these creatures, then it should be fine. I mean, they're still aight. Oh, I don't like you, though. Ranged enemies are always a bit of trouble. Ooh. Oh, no. It's not the sandwich anymore. It's, Hasher. Hasher? Oh, well. We're gonna win against him anyway. Look at this. Watch this. First try, baby. Ooh. He's an assassin type, it looks like. Oh, I got nice spacing. Oh, God. He has a dash. I want to poison him. He's still poisoned. Oh, yeah. Look at that. We're landing some really good combos on his ass. He's doing some good damage to me, though. Finish off with a little triple slash. What? Excuse me? Second phase? What do you mean? I don't have the mana for this, dude. Whoa, look at that. But he's invisible? Oh, he was invisible. That's crazy. Oh, God, he's running at lightning speeds, man. What is going on? Now he's invisible again. Oh, snap. Got him. Lock him in place. Oh, man, you really gotta time his stuff. He's gonna disappear again? Oh, there he is. Oh, snap! Okay, that is very scary. Nice. Good damage. He is poisoned. We got him. Nice. Alright, look at that. We get 38 falling emeralds only. That is not a lot. I kind of want to pick up this Dune Beast jaw. I do kind of want to pick that up. That's going to take 5 of them, which is wild. So I probably prefer the Beast jaw, which we are almost leveled up for. I got to restock on some potions, man. Here we go. Let me go and see if my items sold on the trade market. That would have been cool. What do we got? We sell the red candle, which is nice. That's 700. And, oh, we sold this one as well. Sweet. The good thing is world events are going to be pretty easy for us to solo clear now, since we have this beautiful smoke bomb that has a nice spread out AoE DOT. So I definitely do like that. Oh, we got a party. Is this the world event? What's going on? I joined this guy's party and I get transported into another dimension. Oh yeah, sweet. All right, we got Tix in the party as well. So we're gonna do this world event with the two of us. Ah, there he is. Look at that. That's my buddy right there. That's my buddy. He's fisting an undead soldier right there. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Me and Tix doing work, baby. Look at this. Look at this. Easy, dude. Easy. Oh, God. It's not so easy. We got this, Tix. We got this. My brother in arms. Easy. 2 assassins, man. What did you expect? Come on. We were not playing around here. We got the best loot. We got the best things. Oh, God. Those skeletons do the most damage, man. I'm telling you. That is crazy. Oh, there's another wave. Oh, yeah. There's still a boss. Oh, that's the boss. Okay, the boss is on Tix, I guess. All right, I'll go ahead and clear all these zombies out. So we got a clean line of sight. Oh, God. Dude, the boss went straight for my ass. What do you mean? Oh, yeah, the boss is right here. I gotta heal up before this guy one-shots me. Oh, Get another smoke down. Get some poison in. That's good. That's good. That's good. Nice. Good multi-hit in the smoke. Let's go. Let's go. I got another multi-hit coming up. Here we go. I got to heal up. Damn. Woo. That is dangerous, my guy. Boom. Last multi-hit finished off. GG, Tix. GG. Underrated. Where's our loot? What do you mean? No. Oh, dude, we gotta watch the replay on that one. Oh, that's ass. All right, I got my first friend. Look at that. That's awesome. We failed the world event, but Tix has now been added as a friend. What a lad. What a lad. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I do want this. I want this. Yes. I do want this. Ooh, look at that. We got a full set ready for us to use, man. We got a Dune Beast Jaw, which gives us strength, walk speed, thorns, and main attack damage. We got a Rotten Chestplate, which gives us thorns and poison, 280 health. And we got a Pickpockets, which gives me dexterity, agility, minus defense, but that's fine. Gives us more health, stealing, and loot bonus. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I love Wynncraft. I really love this stuff. I really love this stuff. Always do your caves, no matter what level they are. Always get more loot. More loot, more money. That's what I'm talking about. I love loot. If there's one thing that can get me going, it's looting and grinding in MMORPGs. Absolutely. What do we got here? Here we go. We got some materials. Okay, so the loot is actually from lower tier, but the powders are pretty nice. 500 experience. I mean, that's aight. What do we got? The Owl Tribe. Dude, these are bird dudes. What do you mean? My apologies, I did not realize you were a warrior. You are a warrior of the province. Yes, sir, we are. What do we got? What do we got? Our sacred owl totem that we worship was stolen by the cunning... Oh, dude, it's eagles versus owls. Sounds like an NFL matchup. Ah, here he is. There you go. Fabian. Greetings. What brings you to the noble eagle tribe? You seek the owl totem, the cursed owl tribe trying to retain their lost dignity again. Why should we give me their totem back? They stole our source of enlightenment all those years ago. Tell you what, if you can retrieve the eagle totem, I will allow you to return the owl totem. Oh, yeah, it has to be in here. There's enemies here. They're guarding it. They don't want me in their secret lair, I see. Ah, don't worry about it, man. Boom. What now? I didn't find the totem. Guess we gotta go back. Oh, God. Totemic Protector. He probably drops the totem, no? Ah. I see. I did get the totem, which means that we now gotta go back to the owls, and then we can get the the eagles. We gotta get back to the eagles, and then we can get the owl totem, and then we should be good to go. Be careful, there are eagle guardians in the caves. Be prepared, dweller. Once you get the totem, you may return to its original tribe. Okay, so we solved a turf war. Ah, here we go. Owl totem. Sweet. Dude, that poem in chat was hilarious. Roses are red. XP is fine. Combat XP bomb on world 69. Nice. Nice. Shout out to Zera Andromeda. Dude, that's a great poem. And double XP for that world. What a baller. What an absolute baller. Boom. Sweet. 42 gold bars. That's a lot of gold bars as well. Alright. We are within the vicinity of the world event. Sweet. World event has started. I already used the potion. That really wasn't smart. Oh well. Ooh, look at that. What are these things? I have a feeling, yeah, I'm gonna fail it. I don't have healing items. Yep, we're dead. Yep, we're dead. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. What quests do we have running right now? Because I'm thinking Wrath of the Mummy. This is a long quest. One mummy's rag. That sounds like a chest plate. That sounds like a chest plate. Damn. Okay, so this dude's cursed. Talk to the Hper. No idea who that is. Oh, so this dude studies the mummies. Okay. To enter the mummy's tomb. Oh, it's that place we visited when we first came to Almuj. What is this? What is this? Jesus. Delayed Cretan types have laid claim here. Okay, so there's a bandit camp that has laid claim to the tomb. Some pink wool. Okay, take the wagon and buy a pink wool. Easy. What is it gonna cost? Like a liquid emerald? Oh, I bet it's gonna cost a liquid emerald. Pink wool trader. Here we go. Bro, no. I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. Oh, this is gonna cost money, bro. What? Gotta be joking. Psh. Bro, this quest is a scam. Okay, here we go. I have your gold bars, you piece of shit. What a damn scam artist. Oh, it was actually 32. I knew it. Okay, Almuj teleport scroll. Here we go. Boom. Did get a thunder powder too, so that's pretty nice. That's like what, 200 emeralds or 150 emeralds? Okay, back to the other place we go. Sure, fine, whatever. Let me in the tomb. I want to get my new chest plate. What do we got here, dude? There's some crazy stuff going on. What is this? Ah! I knew it. Oh, whoa. Whoa, these guys got some damage to them. Boom. Boom. There we go. Look at that. Boom. It's too easy. Here we go. You hear a muffled shriek of an evil creature. Really? Oh. That looks like a boss arena if I've ever seen one. Here we go, buddy. Well, what are you summoning all that stuff for? Ah, mummy's dead, boy. Mummy is dead. Mummy's bandaged. Cool. Here we go, Ormond. Yes, I did have luck. Okay. Ooh, legendary quest item. It is a chest plate. It requires level 38, though. Ooh, minus 26% walk speed. Jesus! Oh, 1 tier to attack speed, reflection and thorns, 400 health, and 20 air defense, and 20 earth defense. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'll take the walk speed. We'll take the L on that. That's fine. What quest do you got for me? Want to make some money? Yeah, I do. Translate an ancient text. The lab is up there in the tent, and don't you dare damage the translation. I can't even read what's on there. I know she said don't read what's on it, but I mean, can never be too curious, you know what I mean? So attribute an item to the wood that stands out. The right angle will open the way. Huh. Oh, bro, are you serious? It's here? Dude, what the flip? Four. There we go. And we got some parkour going on. Bro, how are you dodging all my stuff? What do you mean? Oh, you have a second phase as well? Man, you are an ass. Holy, he almost killed me. Excuse me? Okay. Right. Okay. Calm down there, buddy. We still have to identify this mummified, right? Oh, God. I got a yellow crystal. That's a quest item shard. Wait, a quest item? What? I think we're gonna have to go with a stab sand. So we have the highest one is 52, which is reasonably priced. I'll probably go with this one. Yes, sir. All right, we're gonna be swapping out our weapon. There we go. Okay, let's see what. New day, by the way. New day. Gotta switch the days. Can't forget about that. I probably already forgot quite a bit of them. How far is this away? 300 meters. Okay, we'll do that one first then. Just slay some skeletons. Pretty easy, right? Oh, it's the slaying outpost. Sweet. Bring 12 bone meal. Got it. I am done. Salvation. We have a world event a couple blocks from here. We're going to do that one really quickly, and it's probably going to turn daytime after that. I do have my potions this time, so we will not die. Hopefully. No. Oh, he spawned a bunch of mobs. Wait, that's not even the boss? Oh, it is the boss. It is the boss. I don't have any mana potions anymore. The knockback this dude delivers is unbelievable. Yeah, there we go. He's dead. Boom. That was pretty hefty. Whoa. Fabled item. Underworld crypt, sand swept dungeon. Okay. Some soft sand. Pokey cactus. Limestone cores. Electroplasm. A bit of gold. We got an unidentified mummy's talisman. And so, with my new spoils of war in hand, I also opened a bonfire crate. This is a loot box with cosmetic items that is dropped, for example, during an event. What we are doing is playing the bonfire event. With specific limited edition cosmetic skins, it is really fun to open these. But beware, you can only get these loot crates during the event. If you want to get them after, you'll have to pay real-life money for a general chance at the same items that are not specific to the bonfire event. That being said, I did take on the quest to light the bonfires all over Wynncraft. This is a difficult challenge, however, as we are not allowed to use any teleportation scrolls, and we have to find the bonfires ourselves. Using the Hearthkeeper's staff, we are able to locate the different bonfires. After 7 bonfires lit, we'll be able to get ourselves a beautiful trinket. I also went to check out the Battle for the Bonfire event. This is another small part of the event. It is a minigame where I think 2 teams fight against each other in a PvP style combat. However, it was very laggy, so I decided to get out of there, and I went to a world event instead. Now, I was very smart with this world event as I located myself on top of a structure and then smoke bombed right underneath me. This was an elite assassin technique that was only used by the best assassins of Wynncraft. I also got a notification for a world event closer to Nemrak. This was going to be an undead world event. I immediately made my way over, and I knew this wasn't gonna be an easy challenge. And I would soon be proven completely right, as I got launched by an enemy mob into a horde of other mobs. And I got completely one-shot. After taking that loss, I went back to Almuj, back to basics, and I did a couple of slaying quests for getting mashed insects. These are dropped from a small scarab mob and can be turned into a slaying post for a chunky amount of experience. After completing that quest, I went on to look for more loot. My travels brought me over to the Almuj Bank Guard, where they had a quest for us laying around, where they wanted us to investigate some witness reports. Apparently some crimes had taken place and a bank heist from a shopkeeper had unfolded right in front of their eyes. We were to investigate what was missing from the bank vault, and they were suspecting it was TNT. All the small bits of information were lining up. I followed a trail of gold towards a cave that looked very suspicious. There I spotted the bandits who had stolen all of the TNT and wanted to break into the Bank of Almuj. This, however, I was not going to let slide, but they were able to light the TNT before I could get away. they blew a hole in the bank of Almuj and I went right after them. In my pursuit, I managed to find the bandits' leader in a big hallway in the bank of Almuj. This guy was no joke, however. He had a TNT cannon and a fireball ability that dealt heavy damage. That being said, we did manage to defeat him without dying. The door opened and I went to report back to the bank guard of Almuj, who gave me a good amount of experience and some emeralds as a reward for our deeds for the city of Almuj. After having done my service as a Ragni soldier of Wynn, I went back outside to look what was all in the beautiful desert of Almuj, and I found ElAbro, who had a quest for me, which was a little bit more on the light side. I first had to go get a goop scooper, or a slime scooper, that I could take with me into the cave right outside of where my contract started. This cave was filled with slimes and we needed to scoop up the slime. I, however, first scrapped all of my items at the blacksmith, and that's when I went back to the cave to start scooping up the slime. I do still think that a goop scooper sounds a lot funnier than the slime scooper. I managed to make my way all the way down to the bottom of the cave where the biggest and baddest slimes of them all were located. These guys were brimming with goop. And so I collected more slime than this guy would ever need, and I returned back to the outside to complete my contract. ElAbro was very thankful for all the slime that I delivered him. And he gave me a little bit of emeralds to for my troubles. Back over at the player trade market, I started selling some items that I got during my travels. I also got another fabled item, which was an overreach. It's a really good spear for the warrior class, and I knew that was going to sell pretty well. I also put some powders up for auction, and then I wanted to identify that legendary item. I did also make my way to Nemract because I wanted to go and start exploring the seas a little bit more. Now, looking at what the seas would hold in store, I first needed to go to the barman and get a Nemract whiskey. Honep also joined me in taking one of Nemract's finest whiskeys, and he was explaining to me how the seas worked. It seemed like he was a really trustworthy fellow, which was another one of my adventurous mistakes, as Honep knocked me out right after we knocked over that whiskey. I came to while he was dragging my feet across the deck, and they were putting me in a cell on top of their ship. When I finally woke up in the cell, Honep told me that the only way that I was going to make it out alive is if I would help them on deck with renovating and scrubbing. It seems like I'd become a prisoner of a pirate ship. I also noticed that Honep had a lot of maps of all the different parts of Wynn laying around, which was very strange. That being said, I did take my sponge and I started cleaning up the bodies just as he instructed. I did want to make it out alive because I had more important things to do than to die on a lonely pirate ship. While I was doing my daily duties, we also noticed a mob that was sailing into the water. It was lurking. It was stalking the ship. It was making a lot of suspicious noises, and eventually jumped out of the water and presented itself as the Oseerer. Taking fate into my own hands, I started casting spells to scare the mob away from our deck. This was a level 50 monster. This was definitely a threat. After dazing it with a couple of spells, Honep actually punched it in the face and made it flee back into the water. Honep then explained to me that they had a rat infestation problem, and he dumped me into the basement of the ship, where he pretty much said you were either going to fight and live or you will die to this colossal rat. Now, little did this colossal rat know that I was an assassin with actually quite a bit of DPS, so it stood no chance. I then noticed that in the basement of the ship was gunpowder and a gunpowder fuse laying around. Using this gunpowder and a cannon fuse, I devised a devious plan to launch myself out of one of the cannons so I could get away from this damn ship. Honep had no idea what was going on, and before he could do anything, I was flying over the many different islands in the Wynncraft Sea. Now, it didn't go exactly as I planned, as I landed right on top of a deserted island, and now I was stranded. I had no idea how I was going to get out of this predicament. And that is when a really beautiful soul appeared. The Sea Skipper Captain. This is going to become one of our best friends in the world of Wynncraft, as this person will sail us everywhere over the Sea of Wynncraft for a very small price of emeralds. Sea Skipper, you're a real one. Keep at it, man. The Sea Skipper explained me how his ship worked, and then it was off to looking at what Selchar had all to offer, because Selchar was the new area that we just unlocked. And one of the first things that I did was buy a new dagger that had almost twice the DPS of my current one. We were only 11 levels away from using this Reaper of Soul, but it was going to increase our damage drastically. I had a couple of other ideas as well, because I wanted to infuse this dagger with some powders that would give it a special additional effect. So I quickly went over back to Nemract, where I was going to infuse this dagger with the powders that I'd gotten from the trade market. And I was going to insert 2 powder 4s into the dagger to make my multi-hit extremely powerful. This was going to turn some of the flat damage into water damage and increase the water damage that I dealt. Also, when you insert 2 powders that are a level 4 or higher, you will get an additional effect that you can use while doing battle. This effect was a curse. 8 block radius, 4-second duration, 10% bonus damage curse. This was huge. And then we set sail to Half Moon Island. And so, making my way onto the Half Moon Island, I was immediately met with 3 lunatic devotes. These guys were the trusty followers of these lunar effigies. These lunar effigies, however, are the mob we have to kill in order to get to our loot. There is 4 or 5 towers at Half Moon Island that each have a lunar effigy that you have to kill in order to get the loot chests that are all scattered around the map. There is a couple of tier 4 chests and a couple of tier 5 chests, which is pretty amazing for all being in one island. I also managed to land some fabled boots and another fabled item. Rushing back to Selchar to identify all of this beautiful gear, I also stored away some of this legendary and set gear. I wanted to start building a reputable bank with some really collector's items. I then went over to the player market where a lot of my items had sold and we were starting to get pretty rich, at least by my level 41 standards. And then it was time to take a break from all of this fighting and do some farming. Psych! We're doing a world event. Yeah, I thought I had you there, didn't I? No, there was a world event that I got a notification for that was right outside of this place where you can do farming. And we got some more money. And then I also got a notification for another world event, this one being a little bit higher level and having an insane world event boss. This was a Guardian, which had a humongous hammer that dealt an overhead slash and quite some damage. It was also very difficult to dodge this slash. That being said, this guy was nothing too scary for me, as we were already starting to get pretty leveled up. Finishing him off, completed the world event, and now it was time to claim my rewards. These rewards actually had some pretty high leveled ingredients, as well as a hydrogen, which sells pretty well on the player market. I then also inspected this Selchar Titan's Valor, which is apparently a guild event. I think is either from the Guild War or another type of event. And only a captain can start a war. I mean, that kind of makes sense. I then also checked out this quest called Tower of Ascension, which gives you almost 1,000,000 experience, 33,000 emeralds, and 33,000 champion armor set. Now, you might think this quest is like immediately what you want to go for, but it is an I think it is the longest quest in Wynncraft, and you also need extra people to help you out during your quest. It starts at level 40, but it ends at even higher levels. The quest develops in levels as it goes on. I then also saw this Nest of the Grootslang, which was a world raid. We'll get into that later. The raiding system is one of my favorite things in Wynncraft, I'll have to admit. But we'll get into that later, as we are definitely not leveled up for that. I then took the Sea Skipper, and I enjoyed the beauty of the night. Alright, we got Damiral here. Hello, adventurer. What is that kind of a greeting? Hello. Welcome to the great province of Gavel, home of the villager race. Oh. Let's go, dude. Give me the quest. Let's go get rich. Let's go get rich. Dude, look at this stuff. Whoa. Dude, this looks amazing. First, we visit the scroll merchant. I do have some money, right? Yeah, I do. 2,000! Damn! That's an expensive scroll, my guy. Woo! Oh. Ah. In a place of identity above the leaves between the glass. Bro, this looks insane. That's so crazy. This, wow, man. They really did themselves. It is crazy how good this place looks. The builders of Wynncraft are absolutely goated. Or maybe I just can't build for shit. That's also very possible. Okay, clue 3. In an emerald fountain surrounded by the wealth of the villagers. An emerald fountain. Where's that going to be? An emerald fountain. I would think it's that, but that's not a fountain. Whoa. Oh, there it is. Bro, look at that. This was the easiest one to find, I'm not gonna lie. Beneath the cowl of an eastern titan, keeping watch over our heads. Wait, that has to be like right here. Oh, whoa, what? Bro, look at this. Ah! Oh, this was the treasure. Nice, nice. You give me a cut. You took 99,000 emeralds. What kind of cut is that? You scam artist. You absolute scam artist. He gave me like 1.5% of the treasure. Damn. What is this? Dude, why is it exploding? Zenom, what is going on? What in the world's going on? Nothing is working. No, I can see that. I can clearly see that. Okay, okay, okay. Everything is broken in here. Head engineer, where are you? Find the reset buttons. These holes lead you through the generator room. Right. I have no idea what we're trying to do here. Oh! It was right in front of me the whole time. Really? Okay. So... oh, we gotta shift these around. Hold on. Wait, but my gold blocks are right next to each other. Huh? Is that the right one? What do you mean? Nah, man. Wow. Oh my god. Damn puzzles. Psh. Psh. Oh. Wait a moment. I see. Yeah. Oh, this is a dumb puzzle. I don't like these puzzles. You have 2 of each color. So you just gotta go and connect those. That looks right. That looks right. Dumbass puzzles. I want to kill some bosses, not this. What do you mean? Okay. And my reward. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. 58. 58 is a pretty cheap price to identify this. Okay. What do we get? Do we get a good roll? 10%! That is terrible. That's not good. We lost money on that one, boys. Look into the rumors of the strange weather. Alright, let's go. We're gonna explore Yevagar a little bit. Sweet. Is this the meteor? This is the meteor, right? Oh, dude. Cave collapsing? Jeez. Leads into the cave. What do we got going on over here? Huh? Oh, this is part... whoa! Oh. Oh, damn. This thief got mind controlled, man. Sheesh. Alright, we defeated the insane thief. No meteor showers. That's kind of crazy. 256 emeralds, baby. Let's go. Light secret. Whoa. This looks insane. We are going to go ahead and go to Debtless. And then we go over to Nasak. Dude, that music was Loud. Like loud. Sheesh. Oh my god, dude. This was one of my favorite towns back when I first played Wynncraft. I swear, this is so cool to see it again. During Theoric's time, this place was like the Wind Plains, warm and arable. For some reason, Theoric Twain used his immense power to freeze the land before exiling himself here. Right, okay, we're gonna do a little bit of breaking and entering then. I got you. Oh, snap. We need to get out of here. Enter the portal to Mage Maid. Whee! Here we go. Back over at the Temple of Time. It will act as a memory as if you were present, but when you will return, it will be as if you were never there. Wow, man. I gotta send this to my friend right now. Ah, I already see what's going on. He probably froze this whole place in order to preserve it so that the corruption wouldn't be able to get there. But this boy about to crash out. Oh, yep, he crashed out. Oh. He kept himself under control? He's too far gone. So he became the dungeon boss. It's gonna be pretty interesting to fight him. Alright, let's go. Ooh, we got some stuff. We got a dungeon key as well. That's kind of cool. So that does really mean he's gonna be the dungeon boss. You gotta like follow the eyes. Follow the eyes, Chico. The eyes never lie. Okay, here we go. Nice, sweet. Good stuff. I froze this land to allow it to heal. People did not understand. They came here for me, seeking revenge. Alright, is it final boss time now then? I think so. I think it is. Yeah, it is. Level 54! Oh, shit! We're gonna die, man. We about to die. Oh my god, look at his magic abilities. It's crazy. Although, when I think about it, he is staying in place like a lot of the time. So I could just go like this, right? Right. I don't think we can take this guy. He's pretty strong. Nope. Can't take him. Cannot take him. The slow is too hard. I already am slowed because of my equipment. We are 11 levels beneath what we're supposed to be. So our gear is really low. And I'm running a level 32 weapon. 2,000. These scrolls are so damn expensive, man. Okay. So we're rocking 710 emeralds right now. Which means dungeoneering. Because we need some money. We need some money, baby. Alright. Look at that. Look at that. The chest. Sweet. Powder 3, powder 1, powder 1. Some unidentified stuff. Okay. Here we go. Sweet. Ooh. Sweet. Alright, look at this. Materials. Drink materials. Ooh, set leggings. Sweet. Alright, back to the sock we go. No, actually, back to Debtless we go. Because we gotta identify this stuff. And the legendary. Start selling some crap. And selling some crap I certainly did, as I identified the legendaries and immediately went to the player market to put them up for sale. I then also visited the bonfire keeper, who was eager to give me another bonfire quest, lighting 5 more bonfires around the beautiful province of Wynn. This was going to spread warmth in these difficult times where corruption was at an all-time high. I found my first bonfire in the savannah, and then I had to find the next one, which led me directly to the middle of the Wynncraft map. I had no idea where this next one was gonna be, even though I was certain that I could light them all in a reasonable time. I also kept raiding up these loot caves in order to get some more money while I was lighting bonfires. As you remember, you cannot use teleportation scrolls when you are lighting the bonfires. The third one I found in the sock, and this one was swarmed by enemy wolves. Although, Difficult as it may be, I still managed to light the bonfire. With the Sea Skipper, all the way over to Yevergar was where my next bonfire was going to be, and it was even further in the province of Olux is where I found the last bonfire. I was then able to use teleportation scrolls again, and I immediately went over to Deathless to claim my reward, which was 45 emerald blocks. That I pretty much doubled my current money with this bonfire quest. I then did have a little bit of a loot box run, where I opened a bunch of loot boxes that give cosmetic items. Listen up again, these boxes are free when you are doing the quests, but they are paid with real life money if you are buying them from the shop. I may have opened a lot of them, actually. When it came morning time, yes, I know, morning time, I opened loot boxes the whole night. I saw that there was a prison of souls over in Nasak, and I immediately wanted to go there as it looked like a mini boss that we could farm. I hadn't done any boss altars just yet, so I wanted to see what was up. I also really wanted to explore Lutho, but that place was definitely way too high leveled for us. Arriving at the boss altar, it seemed like we had to insert a certain type of ingredient or item into the boss altar itself to summon the boss. I wasn't sure where to get those items, so I went back to Yevergar in order to do some more exploration on the other side of the ocean. And my first quest was taking on an orc camp that had apparently gotten a mythical weapon that inflicts fire damage, and they were setting fire to all of the villagers' houses. I, however, was unable to locate the said weapon, and I wanted to do something else. That being said, I got a notification for the biggest world event in Wynncraft, the Annihilation event. I immediately went over there, but to my surprise, the Annihilation event was already underway and I was too late. That being said, I didn't let it get me down, and I went back and I enjoyed the beauty of the Annihilation room. These roots of corruption actually look pretty nice. I then met up with a new party. This was going to be my first ever time in a pre-made party of adventurers. We wanted to take on the Sand-Swept Dungeon. Nikod was farming this dungeon for a specific drop from the dungeon merchant, so me and Flykesor decided to help them out. Taking on this dungeon as a 3-man party was a lot easier than doing this solo. Especially when we got to Hashir, the Usurper of Sands, is when I realized that we were dealing some incredible damage. Phase 1 was already done, and Phase 2 was steadily going down. After farming the boss for a couple of runs together with my new party, we also parted ways, as I still had to go to Nasak to rid it of the corruption. And in Nasak, I realized I had to go to Yevergar because I'm not high enough level for any of the quests in Nasak. And so in Yevergar, I was looking for the famed weapon that set ablaze the houses of the many villagers. Supposedly, these orcs still had that blazing weapon in their possession. Detective Jackson confirmed this for me as well. It was apparently an axe that they could use to set anything it touches on fire. And when I adventured deep into one of the orc encampments, I actually met the orc that was in possession of this mighty weapon. This was Poxper. Poxper had acquired this magical axe and was going to use it to its fullest potential. Of course, his damage was of the fire affinity as well as his defense. That being said, I was geared up enough to take him on. The only thing that I had to worry about were the fiery spirits that he summoned all around him. These spirits had a ranged fire attack that would deal heavy damage, and that way Poxper could come in close range of me to smite me with that fiery axe. I didn't want to have anything to do with his fiery axe, so I took matters into my own hands, multi-hitting him into oblivion until I eventually obliterated him. Having freed Poxper of his fiery woes, I returned to the Detective Jackson and claimed my unidentified hide. Apparently, he skinned the orc alive and took off his hide to make it into a chestplate. That's pretty hardcore. That's pretty rad. I like that. Now, my mummy's rag was still better, so I went instead back to Nasak to do some loot runs in the many loot caves that are scattered around this icy province. Some of these got some really interesting mechanics, like placing gravel as a mob drop to break through the ice of a floor. Another one is killing a ton of mobs, where we get a key that opens a special pathway. After having looted up a couple of loot caves, we were starting to stack up a little bit more. I also got a quest to look for Bob's lost soul. Now, as some of you might know, Bob is one of the mighty lore figures in Wynncraft. He was one of the strongest adventurers that freed Wynn of a lot of corruption. And we just got a quest where we had to look for his tomb. Upon arriving at the tomb, we got forced out by a mystical curse. I then had to consult with Tarot, an old friend of Bob, who told me to go meet somebody in Bremenglar. This was going to be Wedif, and Wedif was going to help us uncover the mysteries of Bob. One of those mysteries would be that we need to find something that spilled Bob's blood and something that he is very attached to. The thing that he is very attached to can be found in Ragni, when you kill a Bob's lost soul and it grants you a Bob's tear. This was one of the many tears Bob shed, and I do not doubt why that would be. He shed his tear for the beautiful province of Wynn. I then went over to a witch's hut in the city of Nasak on the outskirts. And this witch didn't want to have nothing to do with me at all, as she immediately chose combat upon me entering the premise. I then skillfully slayed her, and I claimed a rose that had apparently cut Bob's skin at some point. I then returned to Wedif with these two items in the hopes of finally lifting the curse. But being as it is Bob that we're talking about, this was not going to be that easy of a task. We had to go to a blacksmith that could infuse an item or a powder with a late person's soul. Although we had to get some really rare items, talking about the depressing set of Wynncraft weapons. These weapons can be found all over Nasak, but only one weapon of one type can be dropped per player. Which means that if you go over to the trade market, a funny thing is that these weapons actually sell for in the thousands of emeralds from people that don't want to complete the quest but want to offer it up to somebody else. I, however, decided I was broke as hell, so I needed to go out to Nasak and gather up the items myself because I really don't got no money. Over in Nasak, I could find the first weapon, the depressing bow, over at a chainsaw shot mob. This was apparently a deceased archer that had turned by the corruption. He dropped the depressing bow, and we were one step ahead in this search for Bob's lost soul. The second item, the depressing shears, could be found on top of a pillar after completing some parkour. The depressing stick, however, was going to be a little bit of a more difficult task, as a weird wizard gave me a chorus fruit that was supposedly teleporting us in a 90-degree angle with a chance of being in an off-center direction. This was, however, very confusing to me, so I ended up just spamming it into oblivion until I reached the goal. And finally, we were able to teleport through and complete this maze, which took me way too long, by the way. And we finally got the depressing stick, which was a really fitting stick for what I just went through. Now, the last of the depressing items could be found in an ocelot cave. This cave was riddled with mobs afflicted by corruption, and I had to slay every single one of them to prove my worth as a mighty warrior against the face of many foes. Upon killing every ocelot, I claimed the depressing spear. Having all 4 depressing weapons in my possession, I had to return to the blacksmith promptly in order to get this quest rolling again. The blacksmith then gave me a mysterious powder, which was apparently Bob's crushed soul. When we bring this back over to Wedif, he was supposedly being able to lift the curse off of the tomb. And so Wedif spoke in an ancient language, convening with the curse itself, driving it out of Bob's tomb. and allowing access for an outsider like me. This tomb was riddled with corrupted mobs, disturbing Bob's eternal rest. So I took it upon myself to rid the tomb of anything that is corruption and not pure. After having done so, I entered the tomb and found Bob staring me in the eye. Having found peace and tranquility, I reported back to Tarot and told him of what had all transpired. He then granted me with one of the legendary items that was once in Bob's possession, a battle chestplate fine-tuned for the best of warriors or assassins or adventurers. I rolled a godly roll on this thing, by the way. 90.6% is out of this world. I've never seen an item with this high of an identification that I rolled myself. It's absolutely beautiful. I then had to scavenge all of my powders in order to put 2 powder force on this chestplate, granting it the dodge ability, which means if I am near mobs and I don't get hit per second, I will deal a stacking 2% damage all the way up till I would deal double damage. This Bob's Battle chestplate was my new favorite item that I have in my possession. I then also got word of the excavation site needing more help, and we went to the excavation site B, where a lot of the researchers had apparently gotten lost in the caves while in search for a special purple crystal. Being the nimble assassin that we are, and using the wiki to kind of solve these puzzles one by one, because I'm not doing all that reading. I first tried the puzzle, and I immediately continued on with my exploration. I then found a secret room hidden behind one of the gates that the researcher that was researching it apparently had completely missed. This doofus didn't even look right around the corner. That being said, we laid claim to the purple shard that was inside of this cave, and we went back to report. And after filling in our report, we were going to be granted with bountiful rewards from Lycron. And bountiful they were, as it was almost half a stack of emerald blocks, which I very much like. I also wanted to go explore a little bit into the sea, because apparently the Ice Nations were having a little bit of an internal conflict. And who better than a mighty adventurer to go solve that conflict for them? Arriving in the Ice Nations, I was greeted by Edgard, who told me about the feud that was going on. We had to go and talk to Halfred about the peace treaty, as they really did want peace. That being said, apparently a treasure got stolen and Edgard had to return it. This treasure, of course, being in a ghost ship filled with undead mobs. After locating the ghost ship out in the middle of the sea, it was time to take a cold plunge and hope for the best. I was pretty much just hoping there weren't going to be any sharks, to be honest. Upon arriving to the ghost vessel, it wasn't sharks that plagued my mind. It was the undead mobs that came in hordes off of the ship that tried to eat my face off. I didn't like that very much. That being said, I knew that I had to find the treasure, which I did, and I then had to go and execute the ghost ship's captain, putting to rest the crew for good and once and for final. This captain was no pushover, however, having a really beefy health bar, being pretty quickly, possessing a multi-hit and a ranged cannon ability. I had to skillfully maneuver around him. That being said, the treasure was more than worth it, as we could bring peace to the Ice Nations. Reunited once more, we got access to a climbing helmet, couple of emerald blocks, these guys are even more broke than I am, and I got access to their mighty blacksmiths who offered me their finest wares in return for a moderate price. Having conducted my research on the items, however, I decided nothing was worth my cash, and instead I went for the dungeon that was in these murky waters. The dungeon being Galleon's Graveyard. Now, when I went over to the dungeon merchant, I noticed that most of the good or the best items are catered towards archers, which means that we don't really have that much use for this dungeon. That being, I skipped the dungeon, and I went instead to Eppo, who desperately needed my help to solve an icy mystery. And oh boy, an icy mystery this definitely was. We tried to blow up all of the ice surrounding the endangered people of Nasak who were encased in ice by a so-called theory. This Theric indeed being the same one as the dungeon boss that has once and for all locked Nasak in an icy century with no end in sight. I crafted a lava rod to melt all of the ice in front of me, and that is when I stumbled upon a corpse that was holding a key with apparently the key to Theric's mansion. Using these funds that would be available in Theric's mansion and his old treasure, we could help the people of Nasak rebuild their whole village. And so I ventured forth with Eppo in my stead towards Theric's castle, as we wanted to raid this place together, which sounds perfect in line with an assassin. Opening the gates granted us access to a couple of puzzle rooms where we had to shift around the statues in order to open up the way to a deeper, darker secret. We also used some of the water that was available to us to freeze the fireplaces, which was the secret combination needed to open the safe in which all of Theric's treasure lied. Eppo, then granting me a part of this treasure, was very happy that we were so willing to assist the people of Nasak when they were in such dire need. A true Ragni soldier at its core, they shouted. Then it was time to go and do some boss raiding, because as you remember, we have a really cool place over in Albuch where we can kill a ton of bosses all in one area. First, I had to sell off all my extra wares and gather up a couple of additional potions to just make sure that we stay alive. This is gonna go hard, dude. This is gonna go hard. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Yeah. Whoa. 2 legendaries. Easy, dude. Easy. There we go. There we go. Ooh, pouch tier 4. That's not bad. Sucks for you that I got more range now. Ooh, no. That's that item. 2 powders though. Multi-hit is 29. Here we go. Voice is dead. Ingredient, money. Another pouch tier 4. Aha, that's where he is. Dead. Dead. Okay, yeah, that was definitely a little bit more difficult. The loot is... Wow, that was terrible loot. Whoa. Sweet. Got him. Oh. Nice finisher. Nice finisher. Ooh. This is a legendary loot chest. Oof. Oof. Stab Sand does not sell that great, though. That's the only issue I'm having with it. Okay, time to head into Almuj and sell, identify all this stuff. Probably TP over to Deathless, sell it on the player market, because I think a couple of my items sold. And then it's time to check where we're going next. Ah, we actually sold Glare for 600. Very solid. Of course, add this to our stash, and now we're up 11k 200. We are ballin' right now. We got 2 LE. You know what? Let's just go to House of Twain. See if we can get the items for the boss altar over there, because it's dropped by a certain type of ghost. Then with in the depths of the mansion, we have to retrieve a book. Okay. I think we can manage that. Bro, how are you? Whoa. As the sign suggests, throw emeralds onto the soul sand at the grave in the room. Then quickly run out of the mansion, turn left to the small graveyard in front of the mansion. Oh, in front of the mansion. Just a random guess. Just a totally random guess. Cool, right? Oh, look at that. Nice hit. Nice hit. Good hit as well. Finish him off. That was not really a finishing move, but... Wait, he's healing? How was he healing? Twain Journal. There we go. I got it, bro. Huh? My guy gave me a liquid emerald. That's a lot of money. I'm very glad I did that quest. Oh, there's 2. Holy shit. The dude is teleporting all over the place. That's insane. When they touch... Okay, that makes me mad. This one is short. Yeah, sure. Where is this one located at? That is EBR. Okay. Which means we now go to the Iron Heart. That is our next quest. You know about guard golems? They're manufactured here in Gavel, and I bought one recently. Okay. The goblins keep trying to forage in my farms, you see. I need something to keep them out, and a golem would have been perfect. Yeah, I bet a golem would have been perfect. He probably lost his golem or something, right? Oh, dude, that golem is fast. Oh my god. This guy's going crazy. Oh, hello. He also deals quite a bit of damage, if you ask me. It's fine, we got this. Oh yeah. Alright, was that it? Was that the quest? Because that's pretty cool. Boom, yeah, there we go. 42,000 experience, 128 emeralds, and a mechanical reactor. That's gonna be a quest item for later on, right? Ah, whoa! Whoa! We got a fabled helmet, boys. That might be huge. That might be absolutely huge. 100% I want to check that out. What is this thing? Whoa, what is that? Minus 92% elemental defense. That is heavy. I don't think I'll be using this fabled helmet. But this would be really good for like a ranged character. I can see. You know what? I'll go for that perfect kaleidoscope, to be honest. So that's gonna add quite a bit of defense. Yeah. So that's 9 fire defense more, 8 water defense more, and just 2 thunder defense less. So that's perfect. Deal damage to enemies you dash through. Oh no, we're going for hop and then stronger multi-hit. Yeah. 100%. We do have 2 skill points. I am gonna go dexterity, baby. Yes, sir. You already know it. What do we get for this quest? 20,000 experience. Wait, that's it? Here we go. Rise of the Quarton. When I arrived, I met with Dado, who told me that we needed to go to Nasea and talk to them. Nasea then told us to find a tattly-tail flower that was going to be able to influence Dado. And that is when we met with the legendary Wizard of Light, Larry. Larry was going to play a huge role in the story of our Wynncraft adventure later down the road. At that moment, I did not know that, however. So the story continues to grow. I traversed the difficult parkour that was inside of this cavern until I found the tattly-tail flower. I brought this flower back to Dado, who then told us that there was an uprising within the bandit mansion. We infiltrated said mansion through a secret passageway, and we got swarmed by Honrart compound guards. These guards, however, stood no chance as they were made of flesh and bone, and I was able to cut them down with my dagger. Opening the gates towards the secret laboratory, the plot thickened, as these corrupted researchers were brewing up something devious. All the way down at the bottom of the research lab, I came to meet with an unfamiliar face. This was Harnord, and Harnord had a quartz golem mecha suit, who then immediately opened fire upon my very person. The quartz giant boss fight had commenced. Now this boss was nothing to scoff at, using a wide variety of magic abilities and mechanical artillery to shoot me down. That being said, the Quartron Core stood no chance against a skilled Ragni soldier. Harnord was in absolute shambles, calling us an idiot. Little did he know that he took the fall. Before the laboratory could explode, we safely made our way out. And reconvening with Nisea, we completed our contract and solved the mystery. Back over at the center of Yevagar, I finally equipped my new weaponry, which was the Reaper of Souls. This Reaper of Souls almost doubled my DPS, which means that we are an incredible amount stronger now. I then did a little bit of loot box opening because, I mean, the event's still going on, so I definitely still had some cosmetics that I wanted to get. And I gotta say, this loot box system is kind of fun to play around with, I'm not gonna lie. But beware, guys, if you do this after the event, it's gonna cost real life money, so just beware of that. I did get a new cool helmet, like a helmet skin, after opening all those loot boxes. And then it was time to take on a very special quest. This was the Maiden Tower, and I met with a familiar face, although from another universe, because this is Shrek. I had now traversed into his swamp, and I had to help him out to confess his love for a maiden that was stuck in a tower. After finding the tower together with Shrek, we entered the tower and they met face to face. And yes, if I would see a witch instead of a fair maiden, I would also be in shambles, as was Shrek. He was actually in shambles that much that he broke the window and he jumped out of the tower. I'm not even kidding. This dude just ghosted her in real life. The maiden then, being very upset, immediately wanted to commence battle with me to take out her anger. Now, to be fair, a tower maiden doesn't really stand much of a chance in the face of a multi-hit directed at her body. So she fell, and she died, thus completing the quest for the fair maiden. I then took on a new quest, as word got to me that there was more mystery to be uncovered at the House of Twain. So I warped to Nasak, immediately making my way over to the House of Twain, where I investigated the courtyard and the village that was behind the house. Once there was a man who helped the spirits pass on. However, he was still mortal, thus revealing a weird secret about Twain. Now, a certain gate opened that was all the way at the back of the courtyard in House of Twain. So I immediately ventured forth and found a secret room where I had to insert a special key. Upon entering this room, it appeared this was the grave of the late male Twain. The ghost of Twain spoke to me about the truth of the Twain legacy. It appeared that the Twains had put their focus on helping the spirits pass on to the afterlife, all the while being mortal themselves. This only helped to spread corruption around the village that they were governing, making it fall into complete ruins. Mail told us to leave and forget the horrors that we witnessed. They wanted to keep to privacy and secrecy. However, our contractor had to know the truth, and upon telling the truth, they gave us a small reward for closure. Having solved the Twain mystery, I was feeling hopeful, and I checked my quest log to see what else we could go do. That being said, I remembered the glorious boss fight where I fell like an absolute idiot and died, and so I took back to the bosses in the Twain domain, the Beast and the Slave. And this boss fight was absolute piss now that I had my new legendary dagger. This DPS was on a whole other level, and these mini-bosses stood absolutely no chance against me. I had never felt this powerful before a foe that had slain me before, granting us with a legendary chestplate, and also finding the location of the first raid boss in Wynncraft. That being said, this raid boss was still out of bounds as we needed to level up a lot more, and also complete a quest with Larry, who you might remember was the legendary Light Mage. But at first, before we could do all of that, we had to cross a great bridge and enter the beautiful city of Troms. I then had a meeting with Galipe, who told me that this bridge should not be used because there is something on it. I shouldn't ignore the warning signs, but that being said, I had a duty as an adventurer to seek out what makes me curious. And this bridge certainly did, as well as the fiery spells that were being casted upon me from a mysterious fire mage. This mage was the bane of the Great Bridge. And this fire mage was nothing to laugh at, possessing a wide variety of skills that I had never seen before in my life. This mage dealt an incredible amount of damage and zipped around the map like a firefly. I had to be careful that I would not fall here and leave my brethren in shambles, as no one would be able to cross this bridge. The bane of the Great Bridge had to become the bane of its own existence, because it meant me, ElAbro the assassin. And as an assassin, it was my duty to slit the throat of anything that might endanger Wynncraft's existence. And so, I slit his throat and spilled blood for the Blood God, as I opened the gates for all other adventurers to venture forth into Troms. And entering Troms, man, was it beautiful. This place was a lustrous tropical adventure if I had ever seen one. Upon entering the city itself, I was met with an absolutely gorgeous view. This place looks legendary. And feeling legendary, I knew nothing better than to meet up with one of the representatives that were standing outside of the dungeon of Troms. Lanu told me about a secret that has been kept for ages. A mystery once given by a magical wizard. This riddle was the mage's riddle, which had been unsolved up until now. The riddle told about a sheep that had to be sacrificed within a deep cavern. So I set out, and I adventured in looks for a cursed sheep. This was, however, no easy task, taking me a full day to locate the sheep. Swarmed with slimes from all over Troms, these guys packed a heavy punch. With the accursed sheep in my stead, I took to look for the dungeon where I needed to be sacrificed. Upon finding the deep sacrificial cavern, I knew what had to be done, and I knew I couldn't hesitate for even a moment. The sheep was immediately sacrificed, and this set in motion a series of events that I could only describe as peculiar. As after the sacrifice was completed, I was sent to an alternate dimension, unaware of my surroundings. In this alternate dimension, there was a laboratory where someone or something conducted experiments on slimes and humans and animals alike, trying to make a homunculus. This homunculus was an abomination beyond human comprehension, which was absolutely disgusting. The mutated slime monster cried out in pain as I put it to sleep for once and all, releasing it of its suffering. Acquiring the key opened the gate towards a deep and dark portal. This portal was a strange invitation, and little to my beknown, I got teleported into Skylar's dimension, where he immediately found me and sent me to a faraway corner within this realm. This realm, looking very beautiful but creepy at the same time, was riddled with slimes and slimy bits. I had no idea where I was. The only thing that I did know was that I needed to get out of here as soon as possible to report back to Lanu. And so I took onto the slimy platforms that launched me up in the sky, finding my way out of this dimension. And to my surprise, upon finally finding a way out, I was teleported back to my own dimension at a ritual circle. I then left this circle and immediately went back to Lanu, where I told them about my findings, reporting back that I had met with Skylar, who was supposedly the dungeon's boss. Being filled with corruption, I knew there was only one thing to do, and Lanu handed me over a key, and I could now take on the dungeon in Troms and rid it of its corruption. This dungeon was going to be a challenge of its own, having to escort a key guardian that would open the many doors within this dungeon, but the Keystone Guardian had a target on its back that was bigger for its own good, being targeted by anything and everything that had been touched by corruption. The Keystone Guardian had to be protected. After my protection duty, I had to traverse sticky parkour that launched me from one side to another, and that is when we finally made our way to Skylar himself. The Shaman of Slime had set its sights upon me, knowing I was there to vanquish him. He immediately jumped away on his sticky pedestals that we were now familiar with. I knew what this guy had in store, but being the slime abomination necromancy, I knew I had to put him down. He then gathered himself in the middle of the arena, trying to conduct an experiment on himself, transforming him into the Gelatinous Giant. The Gelatinous Giant was an abomination also beyond human comprehension. This was the culmination of all of the research he had been conducting in his secret laboratory, and I stuck my dagger inside of the slimy essence of his being, vanquishing Skylar and his many forms once and for all. We freed the area of Troms of human and animal experiments. We then had to take a step back and dial back down the adventuring, as we needed to gather up resources and new equipment to become stronger. My battle with Skylar had shown me that this world was still full of dangers that we were unprepared for. And one of those dangers is corruption, but a kind of other corruption, a more earthly corruption. As I met with Worried, and I was very worried when he told me that I needed to break into the bank and steal a stack of liquid emeralds. But being blinded by greed and being an assassin and breaking and entering is my forte, I took to the rich bank of Almuj, where I dodged the many dangerous golems in search of a famous liquefied emerald banker who was supposedly just going to hand us over a stack of liquid emeralds. Eventually, I was able to find a gateway to the lower floors of the Bank of Almuj. With a little bit of luck, we were able to figure out the location of the liquid emerald merchant. I tried talking to the merchant, who immediately handed us over a stack of liquefied emeralds. This is a lot of money, man! This is a lot of money. Right outside of the bank, however, Worried was standing there waiting for his liquid stack of emeralds. And in turn, he gave me a full liquid emerald, which is 4,000 bucks in Wynncraft. This was an amazing quest. And so it was finally time to join Larry on a quest to hunt for the famous Groot slang. Okay, what monster are we dealing with? Known as a Groot slang. Oh. In Dutch, that means a huge snake. That's a Dutch word. I mean, two Dutch words. Okay. So, what are we dealing with? We gotta go and kill this Groot slang, or what are you saying? All right, yeah, let's head to the site. Let's see what's up. Yeah, this is where I found the snake skin. I'm not sure. I use my magical helix to get down. We're looking for more evidence, pretty much. I hear it as well. I hear it as well. Oh! Oh! Wait, that's not the Groot slang. That's a worm. Oh my god. Larry, I think we might be or Laurie, I think we might be in over our heads on this one. I'm gonna keep it real with you. Oh, whoa. Okay, stay still. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, it is very aggressive. Yeah, this worm has to be pretty powerful. Oh no. Well, we're fine, we're fine. We can do it, we can do it. Whoa! Under me? Oh god. Nah. We're inside of the Groot slang. I can hear you. I can hear you, but I'm stuck inside. Oh! It ain't you as well. Oh my god. What are we gonna do now? Oh, weren't you the one that said violence wasn't the option? Oh! What did you do? You told me not to kill anything. And then you go and kill a boss with 6 million HP? Bro, this NPC is wild, bro. Okay. Ooh. Wow, we got a lot of stuff from that. We got 768 emeralds, 6 Oz runes, access to the nest of the Groot slang, access to mastery tomes, and access to the resource tunnels. So wait, mastery tomes are this stuff, right? Which can buff your character. Weapon mastery tome. Yeah, that's right. Oh. Oh. This is the first raid dungeon, my guy. The first raid dungeon via the party finder. Oh, look at that. Look at that. And so we finally found our first raid of the Groot slang. Your equipment and potions will be locked once you enter the nest of the Groot slangs. 3 challenges lie ahead of the party of 4 adventurous spirits. Advancing forth into the first room with the first challenge, the mighty team of Boundless, Keylor, and Cradness and ElAbro ventured forth to conquer said challenge. Our first obstacle before we could meet with the Groot slang was defending pillars in a room that is swarmed with the Groot slang's minions. You have to place one person on top of one of these pillars that will stay up there to keep the pillar upright. The other party members will then try to defend this pillar from the mobs invading. After the challenge is completed, we are sent through a portal into a temporary reward room. This reward room will present you with 3 or 2 permanent buffs for the duration of the dungeon. These buffs have a very high effectiveness rate, giving you anywhere from 10 of each stat all the way until poison damage, spell cost reductions, and health, etc. Our second challenge was doing some parkour and also continuing to build a tower in the middle of the room with the blocks that we got from various challenges. After which we got our second permanent reward for the duration of the dungeon. The challenge after that was a lot more difficult for our trusty adventurer ElAbro, as he had absolutely no clue what he was doing. The cracked blocks you see in the boulder ahead of us are the weak spots that you're supposed to hit with the hammer when it is off cooldown. ElAbro, however, had absolutely no idea what he was doing with this hammer, so this challenge took about 4 times longer than usual. Please excuse him, as this is the first time he's running this dungeon. After which we were granted our third ability, before we finally made it into the heart of the nest of the Groot slang. And we were met with a mighty foe, the Groot slang wormling, the Restless Devourer. We immediately commenced battle, showing the Groot slang our most mighty abilities before they shot up into the sky and pounced back down onto one of the adventurers. The Groot slang was chomping fiercely as everybody collapsed onto him and tried to get him off of one of our friends. This battle was a battle to be written about in all of the history books. The Groot slang flew up and started dropping down rubble, which dealt immense damage as it plummeted down on top of our heads. Our 4 adventurers became restless and rushed the Groot slang with great haste, slicing and dicing, bludgeoning it in every place imaginable just to get him down in HP. We had 2 million health we needed to burn through. This Groot slang was not a easy foe, as it killed Creator when it had 500,000 health left. We had 3 adventurers left to take on this mighty beast, and ElAbro's potions were running out. It wasn't looking good. This Groot slang could definitely pose a threat to Wynncraft, so we had to put it down right there and right then. ElAbro's health and Kradna's health dropped down significantly when the Grootslang shot back up in the sky, dropping rubble again on our heads. We had to dodge, bob and weave, and stay out of harm's way before this thing would actually kill us. ElAbro fought fiercely, getting the Grootslang's attention directed immediately towards him. The Grootslang chomped and gnawed, scratched right at ElAbro's throat, dropping him down to almost near death health. With one potion remaining in his pockets, ElAbro was trying to be cautious and throwing smoke bombs all over the place. This, however, being futile in the eyes of a world eater, and ElAbro finally perished, with 2 adventurers remaining in the fight. The Grootslang wormling had its eyes set on Kradna next. Kradna was fighting fiercely until they would finally meet their end as well, getting eaten alive by the Grootslang, and only Boundless remaining, a mighty warrior facing off with another colossal unit of a boss. 2 weapons of mass destruction going head to head in an arena with no escape. There was only blood for the Blood God and a battle to the death. Boundless gave no way for the Grootslang to land a critical and deadly hit. Meanwhile, Boundless was landing hit after hit, ability after ability, and buff after buff. They stacked up to fight back against the evil that was lurking within the pits of the Grootslang. Boundless was going to win this fight one way or another. Dead or alive, they would come out. And victorious they were! Defeating the Grootslang and earning victory for the party! And so the party completed the raid, and we were sent back to the reward room, where we were handsomely rewarded by Wynncraft's guild with the finest of wares, ranging from money to powders to equipment and aspects and ingredient pouches. These were glorious rewards for a mighty bunch of adventurers. And of course, ElAbro took to the dungeon once more, as there were many more Grootslang wormlings to be slain, and a lot more adventures to be gotten, a lot more loot to be collected, and a lot stronger to be gotten. This time, however, ElAbro managed to survive the Grootslang wormling, and eventually ended up being the strongest of the 4 in the party. GGs were exchanged in the chat as the raid was completed and the Grootslang dismantled. During the post-interview raid, it was also mentioned that ElAbro had dealt the top damage, standing at a mighty 5.1 million damage across the total raid, dwarfing the rest of the party in terms of top damage. ElAbro fulfilled his goal as the assassin of the team and was granted with more boons, more emeralds, fabled items, ingredient pouches, powders, and aspects were granted to everybody in the party. Now, the aspect system in Wynncraft is an interesting one. These are shards that you can insert in your shard pouch that will increase the effectiveness of your skills or change them in a certain way, allowing you to become a lot more stronger through a well-grinded dungeon. This is more endgame grindable content that I thrive for in an MMORPG. I have to be honest, this is one of the coolest things about Wynncraft is the raid system. It is interactive, it is fun, it's very repeatable and not too long drawn out, and the rewards are simply satisfying to collect. I immediately went over to the item identifier to identify this fabled bracelet, giving me a Hemeriosis. Now, this was a very unique item with a good amount of bonuses, but also a good amount of drawback. So I wasn't necessarily convinced that I would use this fabled bracelet. And of course, you already know that this being an MMORPG, you know I had to complete this raid 3 more times back to back. After completing the raid 3 more times, we'd gotten more powders than we could ever bargain for in our life. We also gathered multiple of the tier 4 powders, which is amazing as we don't have to buy these off of the player market anymore, while still granting us the special extra abilities on equipment. I also went over to the player market to check if we had any fabled items that we could buy for our own possession, and fabled items have some crazy bonuses, ranging from extra multi-hits to changing your smoke bomb to be a cherry bomb that instantly deals high damage, or giving you the ability to double your flight while in mid-air. And then it was time to do some good old questing, as we had a quest for the passageway. The passage is a way where we can travel fast between Ragni and Troms. This could be a valuable asset in traversing the world of Wynncraft. So I went to Troms and spoke with Ildan, who told us that we had to collect an antique bead. This is a drop from a mini-boss that is summoned at a boss altar. In order to summon this boss, however, we had to gather up 6 zombie eyes. So I took to a nearby cave and started massacring undead possessed by the corruption. After killing enough of these corrupted zombies, I'd garnered 6 eyes and went to the boss altar, in which I inserted the 6 eyes, and we were ready to take on the boss, the tribal sanctuary boss. This boss posed no challenge to us, as we just defeated a Grootslang with top damage. This guy was a joke to us. So I made swift work of him, cutting him down with 3 multi-hits, obliterating his HP, and claiming our rewards, which was most importantly the antique beads. He also dropped a legendary, which was a nice addition that we could put on the player market. Taking these antique beads back over to Ildan granted us access to the passageway. And then it was time to explore one of Wynncraft's many features, which are the grind spots. These are places or mini dungeons, as well as a hub for mobs to spawn in great numbers. These places are very attractive to players looking to maximize their experience gains, as you can also drop a mob totem in this place to effectively double or even triple the spawn rate of said mobs. A mob totem is a totem that just decelerates the amount of time it takes for new mobs to spawn. So I made my way over to the closest experience grinding cave, and this was a cave filled with zombies in mining gear, and a corruption was spreading in the basement as well. Now I tried taking on this grinding challenge as a solo adventurer, which was arguably not the most efficient way to do it, but I wanted to get a little bit of experience before partying up with other adventurers and looking stupid again. Remember the whole hammer thing that took 4 minutes to complete that raid dungeon? Yeah, I didn't want to have a repeat of that. I also took back to the tribal zombie dungeon, where I collected some more antique beads, as this was also a way to get a little bit of experience, and I heard rumors of a trader that was using the antique beads as currency. So I killed the boss a couple of times, and then I was to seek out the trader that traded these antique beads for special equipment. And so I visited the antique bead merchant that was supposedly within Troms, and this tribal merchant was selling some interesting items. These were specific masks for each type of element, and the enlightened element, which is intelligence, was looking pretty spicy to me with that water damage and mana regen. Now, the only weird thing was that when I equipped this mask, it lowered my DPS by a substantial amount, which means that this mask definitely was a no-go. This was not what we would be using, as my DPS got pretty much cut in half by like a good 30%. That being said, I did however go back over to Deathless to infuse my leggings and my helmet with a couple of powders, granting my leggings the dodge extra ability and my helmet the concentration. Concentration is pretty cool because it gives you bonus damage based on how much mana you spend. And as we are usually spending a lot of mana in a short amount of time, we get a nice burst of damage bonus. After that, it was time to move on to Gelibord. Gelibord is a very interesting location over in the Olix region. Now, Gelibord has one specific cave that is sought after by many adventurers in Flock. This is called, in the folklore, the Flesh Cave. The Flesh Cave is one of those hotspots where a ton of mobs spawn that you can grind up with a party. I also purchased the scroll for Board for a liquid emerald, which was incredibly expensive. And then I went over to the Visceral Remnant Cave. This is the Flesh Cave itself. And I wanted to see exactly what all the hype was about. First of all, we have a mini boss with a 500,000 HP at the bottom of the cave. This is also the mini boss you have to clear if you want to get the loot from this cave. But it's not for the loot that we're here. We are here for the experience, which was already looking pretty juicy, even while I was doing this solo. That being said, I leveled up to 59, and I was thinking about starting a party, making a band of brothers to grind for experience. And not long after that, I was trying to make a party when I got launched in a group of mobs, immediately resulting in my head getting bashed in by a bloodless head. Back over at Board, I sold all of my items before I would head back into the Flesh Cave. And the thought of a party was really alluring to me. So I kept my eye out for willing adventurers that wanted to start a party and help each other on the way to level up to become stronger. I did spend up until level 60 being solo, and that is when I met my first companion, Urakano. Now, me and Urakano would grind this Flesh Cave for a reasonably short amount of time before we would actually start getting some good returns on our experience. The Flesh Amalgam was also going down a lot easier, and that is one of the mobs that you have to look out for mostly, because this Flesh Amalgam deals a ton of damage and has a pulling ability that will displace you into a group of mobs. Urakano and me were fighting fiercely, trying to keep our HP up while also killing as many mobs as possible. And after a while, the party started to grow in size, and we were a full-on mercenary company. We were grinding these mobs left and right like we were trying to make a paste in a mortar and pestle. These mobs stood absolutely no chance in the face of such a big party. And the party was only going to grow, as very soon we started to get even more people into the party. We also had the idea of putting down a mob totem that would increase the spawn rates of these mobs. And I placed down the totem, and that is when absolute madness started to ensue, and we would start to level up exponentially faster. The whole party was doing hard work, everybody was grinding, everybody was leveling up, and this was going to be a party in which I would stay for the foreseeable next few days. And so we grinded and grinded and grinded, as one of our responsibilities as soldiers of Wynn is to get stronger so we can take on the many dangers that lie ahead in the higher leveled areas of Wynncraft. As the lower level areas are flooded with new players and constantly being monitored, the high level areas are still unsupervised, and we need to level up and go help our brethren in the high-leveled regions. That being said, I made a call for action. Everybody was to relocate to the waterfall, and before that, visit the player market. That being said, the waterfall held many dangers as it was the next high-level grind spot. We need to gather more equipment and be ready for anything that might come our way. I was looking around the trade market for many items to boost my stats, but I wasn't able to find anything that would suit a level 65. So we went to the waterfall. With only 2,400 HP, I had to be careful, as getting one shot will set us back a couple of minutes, missing out on all that glorious experience. And if you just look at how fast this experience is getting gained, you already know that this was one of the GG ways to get strong and leveled fast. The waterfall was being conquered. I also don't want to overstay the welcome and bore you guys with 20 days of just this. I think we're going to hit up some Groot slang after this with our new set. We're going to try to fine-tune it a little bit more. And then we need to get some dexterity going. Level 69, by the way, yeah. Alright, level 70. That was pretty nuts using totems like that. Double EXP, a 10-member party. Man, that was definitely something. Kind of cool, though. We leveled up a bunch. We also got a new ability, so now we're going to get Choke Bomb. Wait, do we have a negative health regen? Oh my god, we do. We have negative health regen. Uh-oh. Might need to change this chest plate, because negative health regen is not good at all. Alright. Okay. Gives me 13 agility. Right now, whoa, 1,900 DPS? Dude, that changed a lot. I think we hit up a bunch of Groot slangs right now. Let me go over to Debtless. We have no money. We are dead broke right now. Because we spent all that money on buying that weird chest plate that I didn't think was going to give us negative regen. I didn't really stop to think about that. So I'm going to put that one back on the auction house. If I switch this over, then I am able to use the Symbiont. What about my DPS? My DPS is even higher with this setup. Yeah. Wow, this is boosting my stats like crazy. Look at this. That is boosting my stats like crazy. We are probably really low on the health aspect. And now that we're level 70, I think we're getting pretty close to also hitting up the other raid. I think that's at like 75, 74 maybe. I do have a pretty good setup with a pretty crazy amount of DPS. So we should be able to get this Groot slang easy. Talk to Raid Keeper? Huh? So what's going on, Raid Keeper? You can't start a raid before you've joined our raiding divisions at Silver Bull headquarters. Would you like to be teleported there so you can sign up? Yes? What? What is going on? Whoa, where am I? Oh, this is Silver Bull headquarters. Oh, fancy. Silver Bull Company. Raid Chief! Are you interested in joining our raid division? Yes! Yes, I am! Okay. What is the raid division? What does that mean? Raiding rookie. Whoa. What benefits do I get from raiding now? What is going on? I want to know what is up with this raiding stuff. Because we are now a raid rookie, which means we can now get raid experience from doing raids, which I would expect gives us rewards or extra rolls, perhaps. That would be pretty cool. Oh, we got a raid, boys. We got a raid. Let's go. Let's go. All right, let's get it. Let's get it. Yes, we got the pestilence with the beautiful plague and also with the good lifesteal. So now we're up to like 570. Oh, it's frozen in place. Nice. Look at us burn through its HP. Look at the sheer amount of damage that we're doing. That's insane. Where's this dude going? Oh, it's dead. There you go. Alright, we got him. That was solid. Okay. Hero had the highest damage. I only had 1.6 million. Damn. That dude was crazy with it. Nice. Give me some good money. Because I need a lot of money to actually get me going. I think I'll go one more... no, 2 more raids. Yeah, 2 more Groot slangs, and then we go do something else, I guess. Groot slang. We immediately found a party. Damn. Nice. All right. Looks like we got a lot of money, however. 1.6. 4.3. That's pretty baller. I'll take it. 7,500 and 2,025. Okay. Ah. I'm already wearing a tome. I learned of a strange tower and a strange doctor that could help us look into our past to uncover the mysteries of why we came to win. Arriving at the Tower of Amnesia, I met with Dr. Pickard, who told me he devised an orb that could look into people's past. I then gathered one of the citizens outside of the village and made him touch the orb. Cade was the first test subject, and looking into his past, we were transported to Fruma in an undisclosed location in the district slums. where he got absolutely bum-rushed by the royal captain and his guards, and they stole away all of his goods. His friend, the scout Renault, was next up on the orb list, as Renault used to be part of the captain's guard. But before we could get Renault over to the orb, we first had to commence battle with a mighty summoner from the corruption. As they knew we were up to something dangerous, they swarmed the village outside of the Tower of Amnesia, summoning mighty minions that were fighting to conquer our village. This, however, would not go unnoticed by me, and I would take up my sword once more to defend the village and to kill the mighty summoner. We might have been slightly overleveled for this. After victoriously conquering the summoner, we then took Renault over to the Tower of Amnesia. I wanted to see what his past had in store, as he was from the same area that Cade was. Dr. Pickard was very eager as well, wanting to look into the past of Renault, and that is when we would learn some interesting truths that we'd never seen before. Back in Fruma, Renault was actually on the side of the villagers, and being on the side of the villagers, he was called in to the captain's office, where they relieved him of his duty, stripped him of his title, and put him into custody. He was considered a traitor. Back over at the Tower of Amnesia, we now knew of the past a little bit more. The past became clearer, as we were transported back into the prisons where Cade was being held, and Tassim was also being held. Tassim was then interrogated by a royal inquisitor. This royal inquisitor was altering Tassim's mind, casting a cursing spell on him, instilling thoughts of violence, thus corrupting his mind. Visiting back to this past, we hope to be able to break this curse, as Tassim was in an instant of violent danger. We also got transported into the dimension itself while we were traveling back in time, and we got stuck. We needed to get out of this prison as soon as possible and return to Dr. Pickard, where Dr. Pickard told us that it was finally our time to touch the orb and look into the past. However, that is when the most strange and peculiar of things happened. The orb rejected us. It seemed as though we didn't have a past, or the past was too grave for the orb to be able to envision. Dr. Pickard was absolutely shocked by this event, as was I, because my past is a haze. I talked to Tassim, who seemed to be doing alright after this weird encounter, and we also got the ability to respec into a different archetype. And that is when I decided to change my whole playstyle, because I wanted something new. And what I was thinking about was going for a Shade Stepper Trickster, when some of the abilities that we unlocked were Poison Blade. We also unlocked Sticky Bomb, continued by Vanish, which will hide us in the shadows, although we cannot heal or regain mana. Mirror Image, which summons 3 clones after reappearing from Vanish that will protect me. Blazing Powder, which means that our Spin Attack and Lacerate will blind enemies and deal additional fire damage. Violent Vortex, dealing 1.5 times of your maximum health, will do some extra damage to mobs around you. Sandbagging, which reduces the cooldown on all my abilities every time I get hit for less than 5% of my HP. Delirious Gas, which while inside of the smoke bomb will make me deal increased damage and gain luring. Echo, which means that my clones will mimic my spells and abilities, but we will deal less damage for every clone that's active. And Surprise Strike, first hit after Vanish will deal 80% more damage. Also Marked, which means that our smoke bomb will apply marks that will increase the damage that mobs take from any spell that we use. Having access to all of these new abilities should in theory increase my damage by a lot. And I wanted to put that to the test by going and raiding what I thought was best, and that is a Groot Slang. And these abilities look absolutely amazing, I have to say. They also feel really fun to use. I then landed a party for a Groot Slang raid, and immediately we went at it. These abilities were a new playstyle for me to explore and play with, which I think is really awesome that you can just reset your archetype and get a whole new build going. I wanted to see how much damage we could actually do in total using this new build of abilities. I had a feeling that this build was a lot stronger, but I wanted that to be confirmed by using it onto the Groot Slang Wormling. this Groot-Slaying Wormling stood absolutely no chance, because when I started pumping my abilities out, this thing was losing health rapidly. And there we go. We completed the Groot-Slaying Worm raid, and we were finally done. And I wanted to check out exactly how much damage we dealt during this raid. Getting into the post-meeting room, it appeared that I had set a new personal record for 5.3 million damage in the totality of the raid. This was pretty cool. I then of course got handsomely rewarded by the beautiful chest, which spawned a bunch of emerald blocks, and we were in the money, man. We were swimming in it. We also got a really cool unidentified tome that I really wanted to identify, as tomes give you quite a big bonus to some of your passive stats. Now you can also get a fabled charm from the Groot-Slaying raid, and this was something really incredible. Or this charm of the worm gives us 33% extra experience while we take 10% more damage. This 33% experience is from level 60 to 80 content, but we're level 70, so it is beautiful. This thing is going to give us so much more experience while we're grinding up. And that is when I decided to go and do my weekly event for my guild. Because you have weekly objectives with your guild that give you guild experience, it is very important you complete these weekly objectives. I needed to go and raid 7 more dungeons. So I quickly went over to the Decrepit Sewers and cleared it 5 times until I ran out of keys. And then I went over to the Infested Pits. The Infested Pits is another easy dungeon that we can just speed run through in a couple of minutes, clear it 2 times. And that is exactly what I did, killing the Arachnid boss 2 times quickly in a row, and thus completing my weekly objective for my guild. The cool thing is you also get a weekly objective chest, which actually holds some pretty good rewards. It held for me 5 emerald blocks, 3 reskilling shards, and a couple of regular items. I think it is because there is also an event going on that we got a bonfire crate, which means that we can open 2 more loot chests. So that is exactly what I did, because I wanted some cool cosmetics. Now, the first chest was a tier 1 chest, and these cosmetics were absolute trash, so I didn't get anything good. I got a Geomancer heirloom, which is something for a shaman. Yeah, trash. The second chest, however, was really good, as we got a godly skin for a wand, the bonfire wand. Of course, it's not a skin for the weapon that I'm actually actively using, but hey, if we ever make a mage, we have a really cool staff to use. And then it was time to look out for another party of adventurers, as ElAbro needed to gain much more experience. We needed to reach level 80 in order to do the next world raid. And in order to unlock the quest for this world raid, we needed to be at least a minimum of level 79. So that is exactly what I was looking for. A party to reach level 80 with. And so I found a band of brothers with a total level of 500. Teleporting over to Sinfrost and making my way to the waterfall with the living scrap enemy. This waterfall was going to be my best friend for the foreseeable future, as I wanted to get the levels as fast as possible. And upon entering the cave, it appeared that my party was absolutely stacked with skilled adventurers. We had warriors in the front, shamans healing the middle of the party, and we had a couple of archers dishing out some huge damage, as well as some assassins spamming their skills all over the place. I did, however, need to stock back up on potions, and I wanted to check out which one of the 2 locations would give me the most experience. Would it be the Flesh Cave or the Living Scrap Waterfall? So I returned to the Flesh Cave, and my first party was getting me no experience. After a quick party switch, I was then able to find a party where I could actually start gaining some experience with. And it seemed like it was going at a pretty rapid pace. I wouldn't say anything crazy, but it was still pretty good. After using a mob totem, however, this was going a lot better. I wanted to see exactly how much experience I could get with 1 mob totem, and after that I went back to the living scrap, where we would actually start grinding out experience even more. And as you can see right here, the experience gain from the scrapyard is insane. I was rushing through the levels 1 by 1. We reached level 73, and then it was time to do something different for a second. I wanted to do another Groot-Slaying raid. Oh yeah, you've already guessed it. I like to switch between grinding for levels and doing raids, as this is such an amazing way to play. I gotta say, I really love Wynncraft. I know I've said a lot of times already, but this is honestly one of my favorite packs/servers that I've ever played on. And of course, it's very nostalgic for me. After the Groot-Slaying raid, however, it was back to the Living Scrap Waterfall, as we still had more levels to gain, more mobs to kill, and more stronger to get. And it's just super satisfying seeing this experience bar fill up like that. We had an incredible party that had an assassin with it that was fairly high level, that was able to pull a vortex move, gathering up all the different mobs one by one in a singular area. That area could then get bombed by every other adventurer in the party, thus resulting in massive experience gains for the whole party. It only took me about till day 90 to get to level 79.5. It was honestly astonishing. After that, it was time to go and look for the new quest, as Larry sent word for help. I met up with Larry on day 90 in order to find out what was going on with the Realm of Light. Larry apologized as she told me that she'd spent her whole life fighting the corruption that was in Galibord. And oh man, this corruption spread like wildfire. Larry gathered up a potion that she made specifically to ward off and heal the land of this corruption. Although when she finally threw the potion, something unexpected happened, as the potion got rejected and the land flung us away. Larry was in absolute shambles as her potion was unable to work. She couldn't believe that she wasted so much time to fail like this. A mysterious light then showed us the way up on a hill, leading us in a weird direction that I had never visited before. Little did I know that Larry actually had visited this place below, but she had never been invited into the tap roots of the light. Larry followed a god that was called the Light, that showed her the way in many a times of need. This light, however, had been failing her recently, as it did not reach out any longer. The light then showed us this pathway and showed us the gate to the tap root of where its origin lies. Larry was frustrated by this decision of the light to show me the way into something that she had never been able to enter. She got frustrated, shooting at the gates. The light responded and opened a gateway into an alternate dimension of the past. Larry rushed inside as I watched, and Larry got rejected, flung away again, once more rejected by her light. Meanwhile, we were pulled inside of this dimension, and she told us to investigate the doorway. The light spoke to us and told us that we had to make a secret decision. The mayor of Olux was discussing something with Dr. ElAbro. Although the mayor stood by the people, Dr. ElAbro knew what needed to be done. The mayor rejecting Dr. ElAbro and Dr. ElAbro rejecting the mayor, both with opposed views on how the situation should be handled. The mayor told ElAbro that he was a sick man, although we had to make a decision that was even more sick. We needed to end the mayor's life. Blood from one man instead of blood from a whole civilization. Knowing what needed to be done, I assassinated the mayor of Olux, thus completing ElAbro's request and completing the Light's action. The Light was pleased with this outcome, as he told me that I was worthy. This, however, would not go down well with Larry, as the Light opened the gateway into the tap roots, and Larry was squirming, angry that the gates had been opened for a stranger to the lands, an outsider, somebody who knew nothing of the past. Larry got flung out of the doorway as I was allowed to enter, and I felt horrible. I felt terrible. After seeing everything that had transpired, I didn't know what to think. Larry putting up a fit, through lightning, through magic, shot everything at the door in protest of what was about to happen, as we got chosen as the Light's envoy. Knowing what must be done, I left her behind, and I advanced forward into the tap roots. The Light was telling me about the history of this land, how corruption had spread into his very own realm, and that light and dark, although opposite, work in sync. Although the balance is very fine, and the warping was slow siphoning the light out of his blood. This means that the Light had a physical form somewhere in the land of Wynncraft, and I was determined to figure out where this would exactly be, as I had no idea there was a war going on between light and dark. I got sent into an alternate dimension within an alternate dimension, needing to figure out where a certain Hans was, because there was another quest lying around the corner. This quest involved talking to Hans, who told me that somebody's soul had apparently been stolen from them. Being very intrigued by this very occurrence of a stolen soul, I went over to check with the mighty Refric. Or at least he used to be mighty, he doesn't speak now anymore. But Refric, I could see his soul was stolen. He was unresponsive and idle. I decided to investigate his house to see exactly what was going on before his soul would have been taken away. And I wanted to see if I could also find how long his soul was already gone for. One of the more interesting aspects of his house was this telescope. And the telescope was pointed at a certain castle that Hans told me that I was a human, so I wouldn't know. Hundreds of years ago, people lived in that castle, called himself the Dullahan, wore a helmet. This piqued my interest. He told me that I was a human, so I wouldn't know. I went over to the castle, to the side, where the light showed me that Refric's soul might actually be in there. And knowing this information, I couldn't sit idle, and I investigated thoroughly. An unfamiliar presence was telling me that I gave him an odd feeling. This odd feeling of not belonging in this prison of souls. That being said, I knew I had to do one thing, and that was to find Refric's soul and free the living of this curse that the undead and ghostly had placed upon him. The unfamiliar presence then told me that such acts were rather insolent. Demons of the prison guard were to execute me when they saw me. That being said, I used Vanish, I used Dash, and I got away unharmed, with not a single guard being able to touch me. I then handed over Refric back his soul, and Refric was excited. Refric shouted out, and he screamed as he was freed of his soulless life. And freed he was. Hans and Refric then told me that something in the castle was weird, was off. There was something about the castle that just wasn't right. They urged me to investigate and to see the story for myself. As inside of the castle, the presence was very intrigued by my way of life. Although the presence had no idea that I would turn this whole castle upside down in search of what had happened in the past. I was set on learning exactly what happened in this realm of light, as I got transported back in time where the Dullahan was shouting out to Larry. Dullahan being another elf that lived for a long time and had access to earthly magic. Dullahan had a vision that Larry was in danger, and his visions were confirmed once more as Larry was bleeding out against a tree after a strong and long battle with a corrupted monster. Dullahan casted many healing spells as he was trying to desperately save Larry's life. Both in tow returned to their camp once more as I was ejected from the memory, and Dullahan was effectively here. Dullahan asked me what my goal was, and I told him I will know everything there is. I will know the whole story. As I went into the second painting of memory, and we were transported to the very camp that Dullahan and Larry returned to. Larry told Dullahan she appreciated Dullahan's help, but that he needed to stop. Dullahan was insisting on helping Larry and told her that she needed to kill the monster that did this to her, and also to kill the monster to save Galibord of the corruption, as it was the only way. Larry refusing to kill it, being a pacifist and endangering the whole province of Galibord. Dullahan fiercely disagreed, but Larry insisted on staying passive. She wanted to solve this with peace, not violence, which was her one and biggest mistake. Dullahan being very angry that I was revisiting all of these memories, making him relive them once more. Something dark was about to transpire. Dullahan and Larry took up arms to fight the corrupted monster once more. Although that being said, that was easier said than done. Dullahan back at the castle was incredibly angry that I made him relive these memories and summoned a mighty flesh amalgam to kill me and save the corpse to throw at Larry's feet for revenge. This also shed some light on the situation, as Dullahan wasn't just angry at the past. He wanted revenge for what had been done to him, and we were soon about to find out exactly why Dullahan wanted revenge. As I pressed on in the castle and found another painting of memory, where Larry was flying against a tree and the mob was advancing to kill her. Dullahan distracted the corrupted monster and started dodging his abilities, and that is when Larry had the one and only chance to put an end to all of this. She could have killed the monster. She had it entrapped in magic and needed to kill it once and for all, but still refusing to kill it, Dullahan had to step in and redirect the missiles that the monster was firing. Larry had one more shot at this, but refused to do so, resulting in the monster slashing Dullahan's face and corrupting him to his very core. Hundreds of years later, Dullahan had to wear a helmet, as his face, his magic, his visions, and his body were suffering from the corruption. The citizens of Galibord, after hundreds of years, decided it was him who was spreading the corruption all around Galibord, and they came to abduct him and publicly execute Dullahan, putting his head on the chopping block and cutting it off. Dullahan suffered a grave fate. Laurie, returning to the camp after a long time, came to an empty camp with no Dullahan. She followed the footprints and found his lifeless corpse. Absolutely stunned by this event, she questioned the morals of the villagers of Galibord, as she herself turned to the dark arts to resurrect Dullahan using necromancy magic. Speaking ancient words of wisdom, she put his body in a pool of old and ancient water infused with magic and resurrected Dullahan. Dullahan, however, after his death, his mind got completely corrupted by the dark infection that eroded away his soul, thus leaving him as a shell of a former man, only bent on revenge on the citizens of Galibord, executing them in his very own living quarters for what they had done to him in the past. Exploding a villager right in front of Laurie, Laurie was in absolute shock as she ran away as fast as she could outside of Dullahan's room. She then locked up the room with magic for once and for all and said her final goodbyes to an old and dear friend whose life she ruined. We were then put at the roots of the Guardian, a mighty tree that would give us wisdom in where our adventure should go. After I had learned everything about Dullahan, I couldn't look at Larry the same anymore, and our paths would start to diverge, as she told me that there was a library in Sinfras where no elves were allowed to visit, but a human could. And we needed to find a magical scripture at the bottom of this library to open the roots of the mighty wisdom tree. And so I did breaking and entering, and I found myself all the way down into the magic library, where I advanced forward. Advancing through the library was not going to be an easy task, as this library was filled with guardians and traps and puzzles for me to conquer. That being said, I immediately found out which door was the right one to go through, but I got trapped by iron gates falling down and guardians spawning all over the place. I made quick work of these guardians, however, as I sliced through their throats and cut up their armor using my various abilities. I then found the magical scripture that I was looking for, a spell to be able to open the tree and to hear the words of Orpheon. After acquiring the spell, I knew I had to make my way with haste back to Laurie, who would be in absolute shock that I found the spell so quickly. Laurie was still trying to fire beams of light at the tree, and I knew I had to speak to her to get her to calm down. She was feeling rejected by the light of Orpheon, and I would feel for her, as I can understand dedicating hundreds of years of your life to a cause, only to be rejected and replaced by an outsider, would not have a good effect on your mental stability. That being said, I knew what needed to be done, and Orpheon spoke to me, as I inserted the scripture at the base of the roots, placing the spell down, and Laurie speaking the magical words. Awakening the Guardian required a little more, however. The home of the elves was not that easily accessible. Orpheon told me that I needed to pursue Larry in going to the realm of the elves, and so I entered the portal with a quest on hand. Larry then told me that she wanted to be able to fulfill this task by her own. She told me she could handle it, and that she would finally be useful again. The voice of the light told me to pursue her, but Larry did not take nicely to this. She told me to respect her wishes as she banished me from this secret meeting. That being said, I am still an assassin, and so I climbed the tower to eavesdrop on this secret conversation. The village elder of the elves was talking to Larry about how she needed to find a specific plant called the canned abyss plant. Then it rests within a cavern that was shaded. Larry thanked the village elder for this information as she continued on her journey. However, the village elder was not an easy one to fool, as she immediately noticed me and told me about Orpheon's circumstances. They were dire, and we must come to understand something. The embodiment of light itself had no morals, as it only knew what needed to be done and could convey that message to me. I went on my own journey to find this canned abyss plant, and to save Orpheon from the corruption that was spreading across his realm of light. Arriving to the location of the plant, I immediately picked one up, and I went back to the tree, the guardian tree of the light, where Larry felt incredibly betrayed by my actions. She noticed that I eavesdropped on the conversation as I had the canned abyss plant in my hand. This would only lead between a rift of me and Larry. As she took personal offense to this matter, she knew that she wanted to kill me. This, however, was all in the plans of Orpheon, as this would set off Larry's murderous lust and she would be prepared for battle. Larry, however, being a very strong light mage, was not an easy foe to defeat. But we, as the adventurer of Wynn, a soldier of Ragni, were also not an easy force to deal with. This was a battle of two giants, of an assassin and a mage of the highest caliber, facing off against each other. The battle would continue for hours on end, as Larry would not give up that easy, as her life's cause was resting on this battle. Eventually, the Guardian of the Forest intervened, shouting that we had gone too far, that we strayed off of the path of the light. As the Guardian opened its gates, he told Larry it was enough, and he awakened. Her task was completed, and Larry was dumbfounded. As she nearly killed me and I nearly killed Larry, she was angered at what Orpheon was exactly standing for. She was confused and angry, but Orpheon and the Guardian of the Forest told her that she needed to turn her flames of anger towards the corruption that was spreading in the realm of light. The Guardian then went on to explain how the physical plane and the mirrored world work. The physical plane is the one that we embody and the one that we live in, which is Gavel, Wynn, and more. This world is mirrored across to a spirit realm where the dark realm resides. Everything is copied and mirrored, and this is where the corruption started. The plane of influence. The plane of influence is a direct mirror image of the world as we know it. This is something that cannot be studied by astronomers, so it is extremely difficult to comprehend. The only thing that I needed to know was that I was needed, and that Orpheon told me to save him in the realm of light where the corruption was spreading. That being said, the Guardian of the Forest told us it would open its route and allow passage to the realm of light. And so we ventured forth to the realm of light, to the gateway connecting these two worlds together, intertwined in light and dark. I made my way with great haste, as the pulse of my light was brilliant, and the pulse of light of Orpheon was eroding. Entered the roots and witnessed the path to his realm. That was what Orpheon told me. I knew I needed to find Larry one more time before I would enter this gateway between the two worlds, and so I did. Going back to the basement of the roots and telling Larry that I believed in her. As Larry accepted me as her fellow companion, she knew she had the right to be angry, but also knew what needed to be done. Finally, after hundreds of years, this light mage came to the right side, as she made up her mind that she knew she had to slay monsters in order to save the realm of light. Violence was on the table, and it was the only thing that would save her from the corruption. She promised me that I would not end up like Dullahan in my quest to help her, as we jumped into the portal and got sent to the realm of light. Spiraling downwards, we arrived at the realm of light, the light's nexus. This was a mystical land filled with many things that were completely estranged to a dweller of the normal world such as myself. Laurie, however, had some experience with this realm of light, but all of this was weird to me. I couldn't make up anything. The only thing I could see was a corrupted vortex spiraling above the nexus of light. As I plummeted down towards the path to Orpheon, I awoke, and Laurie told me to talk to her, as she was showing me the inhabitants of this world. For example, this pink sheep completely turned on me. It became angry and tried to kill me, thus marking that some of the mobs, if not all of the mobs in the realm of light, had been corrupted to their very core. There was one thing left for us to do. We had to go to Orpheon, but this was not going to be without trouble, as the pathway between the castle and the mainland had been obscured. Orpheon had purposefully disconnected his castle from the mainland. This is what we learned when Laurie was talking to one of the original inhabitants of the realm of light, who told that all of the different beacons of light were corrupted. And so we had to continue forth and venture off towards the beacons. It was time for us to light all of the monoliths up once more and open the pathway to Orpheon, who was slowly being corrupted. It was a battle against time as we arrived at the first monolith. This monolith had completely lost all of its light and colors. I jumped inside of the monolith and got teleported in what looks to be the realm of light backrooms. This was a strange and eerie location, filled with mystery and dread. I had no idea what I was up against, as mysterious noises and parasitic crawls were sprawling across in these hallways. I then got teleported to another location, where I had to complete parkour puzzles in order to arrive at the location where I could cleanse this monolith of the corruption. Swiftly jumping through the parkour and using my dashing abilities as an assassin, I nimbly stumbled across what looked like the end of the monolith. Arriving back in the plane of light, Laurie told me that we had completed the first monolith. The light was starting to pulse from the monolith once more as the colors appeared, and we cleansed the first of the monoliths. It was definitely reacting to what we were doing. And so we continued on to the second monolith, feeling very good about what our journey was entailing as of right now. This second monolith was swarmed by mobs from the top, and there was only one option left, which was battle. Laurie was still very opposed of the idea, as killing monsters in the very realm of Orpheon would go against her principles. But the light spoke to us and told us that we needed to cleanse the monoliths, and so we did, killing all of the gliders that were guarding the monolith but had been corrupted. This was the only way how we could advance forward. After killing all of the gliders, we made our way to the third monolith. This monolith being, we believe, the one with the parasite. Laurie sent me off into the monolith once more. Arriving back at the back rooms and looking for the parasite, I started dashing through the hallways at great speed because I knew this parasite was the only thing that was keeping us from visiting Orpheon. And as the light's envoy, it was our duty to cleanse this monolith of this plague. And so, the lights inside of the monolith flashed as I found the parasitic entity, and I could not kill, nor could I damage it. It then touched me and teleported me into a mirrored room, where I was met with a choice. If you were to look into a mirror, what would you see? Yourself? Which spawned a ghostly enemy. A mirror image of myself that wanted to kill me, as it was the parasite taking shape and form of what I dreaded most, fighting myself. This being said, my reflection stood absolutely no chance against me, as I had 3 of my other reflections cast spells to kill it as fast as possible. When my reflection was about to die, it vanished, and we got teleported out of the monolith. Each monolith then shooting its own beam of light towards the path that once connected the nexus of light to the mainland, as we would finally be able to cross the Great Bridge and meet with our Fion. I had to make my way over there as soon as I possibly could, spamming my abilities. Arriving at the pathway, Laurie used a magic spell to connect both of the islands together. But there was something off. Larry felt the corruption on the other side of the pathway, and she could not have been more right. Laurie's intuition was dead on, as a portal from the underworld appeared right before our very eyes, and something was emerging. An enemy came from hell itself to greet us directly. They were thwarting our plans to meet up with our Fion, as Bakal showed up and talked directly to us, telling we were weaklings and we would not interfere. Laurie, being the stubborn girl she is, then rushed off to meet with Bakal, as Bakal casted a barrier that would keep me and Laurie separated. I knew I needed to make haste and arrive at the castle's gates, but Bakal had other plans, summoning minions from the underworld everywhere around me to stop me from advancing further. I had to kill these minions as fast as I possibly could, and he also summoned a centipede boss to thwart my very tries as to get to Laurie as backup. This centipede stood no chance as I rushed forward to meet up with Laurie, which is when I saw their legendary battle ensue. Laurie and Bakal were facing head-to-head in a battle for the Nexus of Light. Explosions occurring everywhere, both of them teleporting from here to there and fighting each other in a blazing battle to the death. Going toe-to-toe and blow for blow, Laurie got ambushed by Bakal, who then retaliated and shot a beam of light straight at him. These two were forces to be reckoned with. They might even be the strongest entities I have encountered in the world of Wynn. As Laurie landed a good hit on Bakal, the battle ensued in a blazing war. Blows were being exchanged, life was stolen from each other, as the battle looked like it was reaching its peak. They told enough, as Laurie imprisoned Bakal in a spiraling light. She then summoned the Aether's Judgment to smite Bakal back to hell where he came from. Bakal then summoned his last trick up his sleeve, which was a portal to the underworld, as he dragged Laurie with him into the underworld itself when the portal disappeared. And so the quest for the Realm of Light was completed, and Laurie vanished within the portal to hell. Feeling very unsure about Laurie's whereabouts, I knew I had to do what I could in this earthly plane, which was to face off with Orpheon and cleanse him of the corruption that Bakal had brought over. Immediately finding a group of willing adventurers, we set foot in the castle, into the Nexus of Light. The gates opened for the 4 adventurers as we were prepared to face the biggest challenge of our lives, entering into the realm of Orpheon. We were met with 3 huge gateways, each of these gateways linking to a challenge that we had to conquer before we could fight Orpheon and cleanse him of his corruption. Our first challenge was immediately a dangerous one, as all of the enemies in the Castle of Light were corrupted by hell. This meant that all these ghostly lights were trying to destroy the castle from within, thus leaving us with no option than to kill all of the ghostly lights. When we adventured forth into the second challenge, we were met with an Atlantic witness. This was one of the trusty guardians and envoys of light that had fallen to the corruption and needed to be cleansed. After each of these witness kills, we were granted with a light crystal that could purify the decay within the castle. That being said, we arrived to our third and final challenge before facing off with Orpheon. And this third challenge was a challenge of teamwork, as the whole party needed to work together, and I took a challenge upon myself. I took the crystal in my hands, which would close me off from seeing the light in Orpheon's castle. My teammates had to help me locate the light's crystals which needs to be purified, as they shifted and showed me the sign where these crystals lay. I purified them by standing on them with this purifying crystal. The light orbs were being cleansed one by one as we were completing this challenge. These challenges meant nothing in the face of a party of professional adventurers. We had 3 of the highest grade adventurers as we arrived to the final challenge. The gate to the Nexus of Light throne room opened and presented itself to the adventurers. Heading inside, we were left with one final trek up a long staircase reaching into the heavens and opening the way to Orpheon. This huge staircase symbolizing the path that Lari had taken in the hundreds of years of being an envoy of light. I knew I needed to do good and prove to her that I was a trusty companion as I set out to cleanse Orpheon, who awoke right before my very eyes and immediately chose violence. The light incarnate had presented himself as a foe to the realm of Wynncraft. Knowing what needed to be done, we immediately commenced battle as Orpheon started to summon beams of light from the ground, immediately smiting 3 dead up to almost all of his health. This looked like it was going to be the challenge of a lifetime, a worthy opponent to face into a battle of life and death. This Orpheon was nothing to scoff at. It was possibly the strongest entity I had ever seen in my life, as did my companions. Orpheon then casted a spell which meant that I was being crystallized, as well as Dr. Green. Both of us being encased in a mineral, being unable to attack, defend, or run away. This was a predicament that was beyond my comprehension, as we needed one of our party members to free us from these crystals. I then got freed at the cost of almost everybody's full health, as I was near death. Orpheon then casted an ability which practically one-shot our party, as Collision fell to the light as well. This battle was going south very fast, as we were trying our very best to keep up, which was when Orpheon casted a mighty spell that smited me and killed me for good. With only 3 dead remaining, Orpheon summoned a mystical gravitational black orb. This orb then pulling 3 dead towards it, and 3 dead having to run for his life to the outskirts of the arena before being pulled into his demise and getting absorbed. We had failed Lari, and we had failed Wynncraft, as the raid failed and all the adventurers fell. I know what needed to be done. As I set out on my next adventure, we had to get stronger. We had to acquire more gear. We had to acquire a full skill tree, and we had to acquire the strongest materials known to mankind. If we wanted to cleanse the world of this corruption, I needed to raid more, kill more, and level up way more. As I started to claim more and more raid experience, leveling up and garnering more money to buy stronger equipment, all I could think about was Lari on the other side of the portal to the corrupted underworld, who was waiting for me to cleanse Orpheon of his woes. And thus I went, and I spent the last couple of days of Wynncraft killing as many Grootslang wormlings as I possibly could. I enjoyed my days raiding and raiding and raiding, meeting new people and new adventures who I exchanged views with and exchanged ideas on how to cure Wynncraft of the corruption. And if I'm being honest with you guys, this is such an awesome thing to do. I could literally raid this raid for hours on end. It is an incredibly fun experience. And of course, pulling rewards still is as fun as ever. And so I claimed the last of the rewards of my last raid on day 100, as I got word from my guild that something terrible was happening in the mainland of Wynn. Namely, a world-ending cataclysmic event was ensuing. And so I reported him with the guild, and we made our way to the portal of the corrupted hell itself, where an enemy captain or an enemy god was about to emerge from. I partied up with Restless and GameLord08 as we prepared ourselves for this event to take place. The Annihilation boss had come to Wynncraft as we were prepared to give it all we could. Immediately rushing towards the Annihilation, it became very clear to us very fast that we would be unable to kill this mighty monstrosity with 32.3 million health. We were even unable to make a single dent within the armor of this mighty foe. We were so far away from being able to help in the war against the corruption that we were feeling the demise of being weak. Restless immediately fell to a fell sweep of this mighty beast as I got flung off the bridge and fell into the lava. GameLord, standing strong, fell as well. I took up with new courage as I fought for my life before being vanquished. The mighty beast swept with one arm, completely obliterating me, and the event failed, as we could only hope that the other adventurers of Wynn would be able to face off against this mighty god. Thus concluding our adventure in Wynncraft. Oh man! What a damn server! Oh my god! This thing, I mean, this server is just so packed with content and so packed with awesome adventures. I can't even believe how much fun I had playing this. Guys, play this pack or play this server. You won't regret it. I truly mean it. And what an adventure it was. Seeing so many different side quests and so many different stories, finding the light, and battling with these mighty raids was honestly an incredible experience. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I definitely enjoyed this one, and I will hope to see you in the next one. Also, for those of you who missed the announcement, we also have a Discord server now. So, make sure you check out the link in the description below, as I will be active in this Discord from time to time, and I will make some cool announcements here and there. That being said, this was me, your boy ElAbro the Assassin, and I will take to grinding once more in the future maybe. Bye bye!